Welcome, everyone. I am with Kaitlyn Bankson. She's an objectivist, a literary fiction writer, and we've been talking for some years. And she has an interest in exploring organic intelligence ideas, therapy, psychology, emotions, and which are topics that are relevant to her own fiction writing and her interest in objectivism and individualism. And we're having a planned, unplanned conversation. It's a free association conversation. We don't know what's going to happen. It'll be messy, hopefully fun. I also had before we came on, I had arrabbiata sauce, and I'm having like tears and congestion from the spice. So it's going to be okay. Anyway, um, hi, Kaitlyn.
Hi,
Uh,
Bach.
all right. So, would you be interested in leading? I mean, so you've consumed some of my content, and you have some interest in exploring ideas. And I'm available for Kaitlyn to grill me as much as she wants. You know how objectivists can be tough on each other and intellectually. So let's just see what happens. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have heard, I don't know if you want to hear how I got into objectivism in the first place. I definitely
Yes.
like making it, personal. And I feel like I've heard a lot of objectivists come into this with some parent who was escaping communism. And so that's kind of how my story starts is my dad became he defected from the Czechoslovakia, which is now Czech Republic or Czechia, which I still prefer Czech Republic, but he defected in 1984. So he was part of a conservatory. His mother wanted him to be an opera singer. And he was allowed with his other classmates to go travel. Otherwise, there were people trying to cross the border and they would be shot. I mean, it was the typical story you hear of North Korea and stuff. And it was still that way in the Czech Republic. And so he just started asking for asylum basically in when they were traveling in Venice, Italy. And in his broken English, he got someone to point him to where he could ask. And he was in a refugee camp for like 9 months, I believe. And he finally got a sponsor. It was between like Australia or the United States. And he was like, I want to go to the United States. And he found a sponsor there who eventually became my godmother and came to the US and then had a family, wife, children, me and my brother. And he was like the one who gave me Atlas Shrugged. And he has always been very patriotic. So I was 15, and that's like kind of the year where, the Ayn Rand Institute wants to like bring you in and wants to, share with you and teach you about her world. And that's where I really got hit hard. And we can get into more of why. But he was the one who handed me that. And then I went kind of backwards. So then I went to the Fountainhead, and then I went to Anthem, and then We the Living. And I would be the strange girl who was like raised by a European dad who showed me like documentaries of 9/11 and like North Korea and like inside what it is and like just like very heavy things. But he was so patriotic and he's proud of his country. And he didn't know that when he was leaving at the time that he was going to, the Soviet Union was going to be leaving Czechoslovakia at the time in 1990 and 1991, because he finally arrived in the US in 1985. And he didn't know. It might have been forever. He left his family behind. He left his, beloved mother, and he didn't think he would ever return. And he made that choice. And so that obviously I was brought up with that, and that really influenced me into individualism and into being anti-communist all the way. And I think a lot of young people don't have that influence anymore because there aren't as many, it fell in 91. So anyone born after that, it's like, okay, well, they don't have that experience. They think it was a failed experiment and that it could work. And yeah, so I mean, that's just kind of the start. And from there, like I was hooked by like 15. I was I was gonna read everything she had ever written, and I did. At least on anything that's out of the archives.
And that partly the discovery of objectivism, I take it, fueled your interest, helped fuel your interest in fiction writing and thinking along those lines, objectivist fiction writing, individualist fiction writing. And for the audience, I'll have a link to Kaitlyn's website where you can look into her writing. Yeah, thank you for the background. Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Yeah. So on topics, psychology, OI, therapy, what's on your curiosity?
So I guess my dad, I put out a compilation of my dad and my mother's writing. So my mother was a copywriter for Warner Books at the time in New York. And she brought in, unfortunately, she's was very intelligent, and unfortunately, she brought in her anxiety into their relationship. And so she had agoraphobia, and she, from what I know, did not leave the house for like 2 years. And I guess I had been growing up hearing these stories. And I was kind of weird because I know Ayn Rand was like 9 years old and she knew she wanted to be a writer and she always wanted to be a writer. And everybody kind of says that. And like for me, I think I found my strengths in writing, but I kind of wanted to avoid it because I thought writing would make me more anxious. I kind of wanted to, I thought like I would become a super anxious person and not be able to leave my house if I delved deeper into writing.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I went like I'm gonna be a ballerina, like a lot of young girls are. I did start, they put me in ballet at like 3, and then I was on and off when we had the money to be in ballet. So I thought I'd be a ballerina, and then I decided I'm gonna play the guitar, and then I was like, oh, well, I'm actually not very good at those, or I'm not like shaped, I'm like lithe. I'm not very like slender enough to be a ballerina, like a good professional ballerina. So, and I couldn't do like the double pirouettes and stuff like that. But my strength was still in writing, and so I kind of got pushed into that. And another layer, I guess I have a lot of complicated pieces, which is why I feel like this is going to be kind of a disjointed like therapy session. But
Okay.
the last piece is that so she had this anxiety, and then lo and behold, with our biology, she got breast cancer. And that caused her own crisis, which was I've never been like independent. I've been very dependent on my mother, and I haven't been able to leave the house. And like, I just need to be my own person. I need to find myself. So she divorced my dad. And then I was going back and forth, back and forth. And then she recovered from that breast cancer. But of course, the risk is always it can reoccur in a more vital body part. And so she got it in her endocrine. So she got endocrine, like a rare type of cancer. And I lost her when I was 11. So she died from that second. We don't know if it's like the tamoxifen or, other things that can increase risk, but she got it again and then she didn't make it that time. So I was, of course, devastated. And that really affected my entire life, from then on, obviously. And my brother's too, I think, but I can't speak on his, behalf. Um, and then, of course, our families just fell apart. And my mom's side of the family got into this whole thing about enforced visitation. So then I was not only did I have the divorce back and forth, but then later I had this back and forth between my mom's family and my dad, which I don't want to get into too much, but that was also extremely difficult. So my childhood from like, I don't know, yeah, 11 to like 16, maybe 18 was traumatic. I think I have a good like attachment base because my parents both loved me. Um, but from then on, it was a struggle. And my survival mechanism was
Hmm.
just to dig my head into studying and dig my head deep into reading books. I pretty much by 11 was like, okay, I'm an atheist. My mom was she was a Protestant, so we kind of went to church, but my dad was always atheist. So I kind of never really believed in God, but I was definitely raised in the culture. Um, but by the time I lost my mother and I was like, why? And I feel like a lot of students come to philosophy asking why? Why did this happen to me? Why do good things happen to or bad things happen to good people? And I was just lost and I needed answers. So I went on this whole escapade to search for answers in literature. And I just continued. And so I needed somebody like Ayn Rand to just shake me or pick me up and tell me like, you can still live a happy life, even though
Hmm.
this all happened to you.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it has a lot of pieces, but all of those pieces are what is forcing me to be the person I am right now, which is a very restless person, a person who is still dealing with anxiety. And for me, my books have been kind of, I call them a fictionalized scrapbook because they start from when I'm like a teenager and I kind of have some ability to write and I'm starting to get noticed in class for it. And so then I'm like, okay, well, I'm going down this path anyway. Let's just see where it leads me. And so I've just been reading everything classic literature, everything good that I can find, everything that does talk about the human condition in order to just soothe my own soul, basically. Um, because I wasn't finding answers in God or religion or the church, or I wasn't finding answers in the left either, because I already had a bias against them just being raised the way I was. So the closest thing I had ever gotten to soothing myself is literature. And I think ballet is, pretty close there too, because in ballet, your mind is totally focused on the moves and the music, and your head is quiet. And
Hmm.
I value that
Yeah.
immensely, but I'm stronger at being a writer. And so that's why I didn't really want to market my books or talk about my books because they're really just, I feel like literature, literary fiction at least, is just the emotions are all extremely true and clear and connected to me, but the exact events might not have happened to me. So you're not really reading for the events or the characters. To me, you're reading that psychological landscape. Um, so I'll stop right there because I could keep going,
Yeah.
but it's an immense journey.
You thought writing would increase your anxiety, but it sounds like it soothed you. It soothes you.
Yes. And I don't know where I realized like, well, I kind of just gave in at first. I was like, okay, I just need to just do this because this is the best thing I can do with myself. This is the best I can be in this line of work. And I feel like I can improve and I'm good at it and I want to keep doing it. I want to keep searching for these answers. And so I just kind of gave into it. And it does feel like when people journal, I mean, during a therapy session or after whatever, that is kind of like my form of journaling. Um, but I feel like it's important enough to share with people, especially because I want to find people who are also in the same world, just not,
Hmm,
not,
in the same world. Yeah.
what were you saying?
Oh, I'm just in the same world, you said.
Yeah, yeah, because it would be so easy. And if I wish I could, if I could believe in God, and because most people, especially in Iowa, you're surrounded by people who just say, I heard recently on a podcast I was listening to, they said anxiety is a sin that, and that's what I've been trying to get away from, that you can be a good person and not have original sin and not think of anxiety as a sin when you're doing nothing wrong. You're just living and you have scars. You have things that haunt you if you have gone through trauma. And hopefully, like with OI, you can heal them and recover from that trauma. And I don't know if like I've been in and out of therapy too, and we kind of discussed offline too that CBT and EMDR and all these things didn't seem to help me. There is one instance where it did help me in terms of like a specific flashback, and we kind of went over the flashback over and over, and we talked about it over and over until it kind of just desensitized me, and I stopped having those recurring dreams, those recurring nightmares. Um, but other than that, all of the questions I have are extremely existential ones. And those aren't things that necessarily like the therapist can tell you or give you, and nobody really can, at least not yet. Um,
Well, it sounds like you're answering them as you write. That would be my guess.
yeah, well, and the writing too is like I was gonna say it's like a mirror. Like so I'm seeing this reflection back at me of like, oh, this this problem is still haunting me because it's still coming in through my writing. So like this anxiety follows throughout every single book. And I'm only noticing that like now because I've
Oh,
just been I just released the fifth one. And it's like anxiety is like a major theme. And it means that I'm still being haunted. Um, by my past and I haven't overcome everything. And I don't know if I will overcome everything because anxiety, that everyone has anxiety, but it's the fact that it's sticky for me that I do talk about unwanted intrusive thoughts in the book. And that I do deal with those. And so any kind of therapy, including like maybe OI, could help me um, just see it differently or help me not be as restless because I'm tired. Like
Tired. Oh,
I'm tired because I read all the time. And it's this like continual search for, meaning and purpose in my life. And the closest that I've gotten so far is Ayn Rand's Objectivism. Really surrounding myself with values is really helping me feel better about life and that it is this benevolent universe, that it's, an angry God did not come and take my mother because I needed her. I didn't, nobody up there needs her. I needed her.
surround
And
yourself with values.
it's extremely important. And she really, really taught me that. I mean, I already was like, oh my God, this is my person, like when I first read her. But the fact that she could flesh her thinking out more and her exact philosophy was really helpful in, understanding what I was reading and realizing that like a lot of what I was reading was not helpful and was making me more anxious too, especially in
Wow.
college where everything is just steeped in Marxism. I mean, I just lost it.
OI, what have you done with it? What have you learned about it? How has it infused anything?
Yeah. So I haven't been able to talk to you about it in depth, and that's why I'm kind of curious about talking to you about it. But I did watch and I thought it was interesting that you only kind of talked about one specific um, problem, which was OCD. Because I was like skimming through it and I was like, hey, that sounds familiar to me.
OCD.
Yes. And I've never been, so I did go through therapy and I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder during college because that's when I was like, I cannot handle it. Um, but, the unwanted intrusive thoughts everywhere online is posted that has a major overlap with OCD. And I do little things here and there, like I like the number three. And so I'll have like 3 pieces of granola on my on my yogurt, like weird little like OCD like things. But I
Wait,
think,
let me ask. I know I'm
yeah.
interrupting, but do you ever desire a fourth piece? Or is it you only, but you're very
Well,
con
no. So I have like the whole thing of, I have granola, but then I'll like save back like 3 chunky pieces. And no,
this.
I don't have like a desire to have another one.
Hmm.
I just use, or I count out like, so it's, I don't know why it's usually like food things. So it's like, I'll have 9 carrots because that'll get me through the week. And if I have more or less, I have to go grocery shopping again or something. Like I do have these weird little rituals as part of my day.
So the number three gives you pleasure, it sounds like.
Yes. And
Yeah.
that is where I'm like, okay, wait, I've never heard this in therapy before. And maybe this is an OI angle that I've never heard before and could be helpful.
I mean, OI is just 2 words, orientation, 3 words, orientation and pleasure, but you can drop out the and. It's just there for just to
Okay.
connect. Yeah,
And
yeah.
see, I wasn't sure exactly what orientation means.
Yeah.
Is that a big like
No, 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 no. It's just that like half of my zillion videos are on that. Orientation refers to your senses, seeing, hearing, the other three, let's just say
okay.
stick with seeing and hearing, your senses, seeing and hearing, being able to connect with the immediate environment in the moment effortlessly, easily, and pleasantly. And if you're interested, let's do it right now. Just see and hear what there is. If you feel, I know we're on recording, so it may not be
Yeah.
comfortable, but if you want to try, we could try. Otherwise, we can move on with conversation. Yeah.
Okay. Is that like grounding? Because I have done grounding practices before, noticing, seeing, hearing
You
things.
could you could slot grounding under orientation. The fundamental difference is that orientation technically and optimally refers to effortless automatic connection that's happening automatically as opposed to consciously directed effort at finding 3 things to look at, 3 things to hear.
Yeah.
Although if that gives you pleasure, because 3 gives you pleasure, do that.
Okay, okay, I'm curious.
Yeah. To try orientation right now?
Yeah. Do you want to?
Um, I always want to do orientation. It's the only thing I want to do in life, Kaitlyn. Um, okay, what you're just going to do is nothing. You're just going to let's try sight. Let's try. I'm going to give you two senses: seeing and hearing. Which one seems more pleasant or interesting to you in the moment, or are they both equally interesting to you?
Seeing, because I'm
Seeing,
watching you right now. Yes.
yeah. So I'm going to say, let your eyes go where they naturally want to go right now. Let your eyes go where they
Right
naturally.
on you, right on your face.
Then keep orienting. Yes, and just see what happens. And feel to, since we're recording and since we have an audience, you can feel free to report anything that you want to report. But you're just orienting right now.
I just feel like everything around it is just getting kind of blurrier and it's just focusing on your face. And I might not be like staring at the camera, but I'm looking at your face right now.
That's where your eyes naturally want to go right now,
Yes. Because
right?
my whole brain is oriented and focusing on you.
Okay, so I would say continue orienting to me in this moment and see what comes up. It could be thoughts, images, feelings, or more orientation in regard to me or in regard to my poster or in regard to your room or whatever, and report anything you feel like reporting to us. Yeah.
Excitement, just because I feel like I haven't been able to speak to a lot of people about this journey and
Mm.
my interest in it, and that someone's actually interested in hearing like what I have to say, which sounds bad because I have a husband and a child, but they aren't therapists or they don't have that kind of same searching. I don't know.
Yeah.
Which I feel like a lot of therapists, they have that need to understand too, because usually they have their own background and their own trauma and their own anxieties. So we're both trying to just
There's
find,
excitement, you said.
yes,
As you're orienting to me, there's excitement.
yes.
It sounds like pleasurable excitement.
Oh yeah.
Is it all over the body, anywhere in the body, more specifically with more intense, or is that just a zone that's not comfortable?
Um, I wouldn't say I'm like vibrating or it's all kind of just mental, like
Mental.
cerebral and the visual, I would say. It's more up here,
Okay.
not really anywhere else.
In the head, just
Yes.
behind the forehead or the whole head?
I would say just behind like where my eyes are, just there.
The eyes. The eyes are orienting and you feel pleasure there.
Or yeah, or it's my brain. I don't know if it's my because your
Yeah,
brain is
yeah, yeah,
behind
yeah.
there,
Yeah, right,
but
right.
but yeah.
Yes. Let's hang with the pleasurable excitement in the brain and the eyes and the forehead area. Nice.
I'm just holding on. Sustained. It's sustained.
Yeah. Orientation and pleasurable excitement in the brain area.
Mhm.
We're just going to feel the excitement as long as it lasts. So we're just going to keep going. And you can report,
Okay.
yeah, just continue.
Okay.
Orientation and pleasure. Nice.
Still going.
Oh, still going, yeah. Orientation and pleasure, still going.
When does it start feeling awkward?
You would have to tell me, do you feel awkward?
Now.
Okay, then we can continue with something. So there was orientation and pleasure. It lasted for several moments, and
Yeah.
then there was then awkward feelings started happening.
Because I think I remembered like we have an audience. We're supposed to be entertaining them.
Whatever.
Nah.
I mean, no, I mean, I mean, we're doing real conversation work here.
Yeah.
We're exploring OI in practice. So I would say don't worry about the audience.
Okay.
At this moment, does it interest you to continue trying to orient and feel the pleasure behind the brain, or does it feel like you're onto something else now? We're onto something else.
it feels like I'm starting to get questions coming into my head about, okay, well, what if you're not feeling good, or how is this supposed to help you out of a panic attack, which you can't really stop once it's starting, but how do you apply it? I guess is all of a sudden I'm starting to wonder.
Yeah, we're applying it by doing it. So as you do more orientation and pleasure, it integrates into your experience more and more over time. Orientation settles intensity, pleasure is pleasure, and that just grows and grows and grows and grows, and everything else just sloughs off.
Really? So
Yeah.
instead of, because I feel like with therapists, they're catching you at like your worst moments and they're trying to give you like a toolbox to use of things to pull out when you're panicking, when you're starting to have anxiety. So it's a kind of a completely different orientation than what I'm used to. Because usually I'm like, okay, what do I pull out now? I need to do grounding. I need to do this to settle my heart rate down. So I'm not used to doing this when I'm not necessarily panicking.
Right. This is training during panic attacks and not during panic attacks. It's how easily and quickly can you get to orientation and pleasure.
Okay, I've heard that before in therapy where it's like the more you practice grounding or something, or some of those tools, the more you can quickly you can get to them or switch it off
Yeah.
before it gets worse.
A fundamental point here is that the control strategies you're talking about are very valuable. And from the perspective of organic intelligence, priority is always any automatic, effortless feeling better. Any automatic, effortless orientation and pleasure that's happening is always the priority. Control strategies are good to the extent they can move you into the effortless, automatic state of orientation and pleasure. But that state, orientation and pleasure, is really always the priority and the
It's
fundamentally
like,
different model from control strategies.
yeah, it's like the gym bros that talk about, well, you just have to make it a habit to go to the gym every day. And then it becomes like, it's just part of your routine and you just do it. You just go.
Yeah.
You don't even have that instant you don't have that problem of like, nah, I don't want to go today. I'm just gonna stay in my pajamas the rest of the day. You don't have that
Yeah.
block, that barrier.
When you were orienting to me earlier and feeling the pleasure in the brain area, did that have the quality of, okay, this is automatic and effortless. It's just happening. And it's
Yeah.
enjoyable. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I was already doing it, I feel like, but so I don't know if there's a difference there.
Oh, you were already doing it, and I was inviting just more amplification on that fact.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
right.
yes. And then it's similar to like I follow someone on YouTube who's like what is it called? Pregnancy and postpartum TV, and she does like a bunch of exercises, including meditation and yoga and cardio and lifting. So she mixes all of those together, but she allows you to just sink into it. And because I do it every day, it's just become a habit and it's effortless to just do it at that point.
Yes. Yes.
It's
That
like
quality of
already there.
the quality of effortlessness is premium. We want to focus on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. And I don't know if people don't get diagnosed with OCD unless I think it's a problem, right? Or isn't that like most of therapy? It's like unless it's causing you distress, it's not considered a disorder. So I would like to, I don't know if I should bring him in, but my husband has this thing where he didn't know it was abnormal, but he would count like everything around him just kind of constantly all day. And it's just there in the back of his head counting. And he didn't realize that nobody else like does that. And that could be like an OCD thing. He's never been diagnosed, but it doesn't cause him displeasure, or it causes him pleasure, but it doesn't cause him distress. And so I don't think that would that be labeled OCD? I don't.
Counting 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 things in the room, for example.
Yes. So
So
like
there's
I can give
orientation.
you an example. So like on the TV, we have the Vizio like TV thing, and he'll count that there's like five numbers or five letters over and over and over while he's watching something. And but it's just there
Yeah,
counting.
yeah.
And but it doesn't bother him. And I don't think he's had as many traumatic things happen. So I don't know if that's why it didn't trigger anything negative. Um
There's orientation and there's pleasure.
Yeah, and so for him, that is exactly what he's doing. It's pleasurable for him, and so it doesn't bother him. And so therefore, it's not a like a condition. It's not something that he needs to resolve. It's just kind of how his brain seems to function.
I
I
mean,
don't
if
know.
the kitchen sets on fire, would he address that or would he continue counting?
No, I he would address the
So it's
fire.
not, and there's no problem, right?
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that is interesting too, because it feels like everybody has anxiety, but sometimes you need that extra help to fix it. And it is a problem and it is like a diagnosable thing. And other times it's not. It's just you as a regular person uh,
Mm.
living with anxiety. I don't know. It just doesn't, sometimes it feels clinical and sometimes it doesn't feel clinical. It's just part of
Yeah.
who you are.
And whatever the case, orientation and pleasure, uh, according to organic intelligence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very interesting. I have never heard that before.
Yes.
So it does make this kind of therapy unique.
I'd say so. And it's an approach to living and growing your capacity to handle things and process information and intensity more easily. So we're including not just examples associated with therapy like reducing symptoms of anxiety, depression, and trauma. We're talking about, can you read for longer periods of time enjoyably? Can you
Hmm.
think about abstract topics more enjoyably for longer periods of time? Can you socialize for a longer period of time and more enjoyably? We're increasing capacity for pleasure
And
by
I totally
increasing.
get why that, I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I totally understand why that fits into objectivism because you have therapists who, I mean, I had a therapist that I knew she was religious because religion and politics are important to me. So I kind of nowadays I'll start off with like, hey, this is what I am so that we don't get into any issues
Yeah.
because they will put, even if they don't tell you, they do put their own biases on the therapy they're doing. So I knew that she was religious and I knew that there's kind of this sense that, well, if you just, same with anxiety as a sin, if you just let your anxiety go and give it to God and He's already solved death, like you don't need to worry. And your life would be easier that way. Like I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that. And so, and their whole orientation is toward, yeah, we're suffering, we're damned, but if you just believe in this, then that'll kind of go away. And I needed something else. I need the pleasure that's there and the orientation that you're talking about.
Yes.
I have to work on it. It's a muscle. I mean, just like reading all this good literature, I think that if you have better thoughts, you have better writing. I mean, and it's hard work. I mean, Ayn Rand said you're not just this talented person that just comes out and can write. Anybody can write, but they have to devote that time and that attention to the best thoughts out there, and that'll translate. And I think you get more pleasure out of that too. Um, yeah.
Yes. I would be curious how orientation shows up in your life currently and how it could.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah.
I well, I told you that I surround myself with values. So you can see I live in a very ornate, decorated house. And that's one of the things I would say. I never disagreed with Ayn Rand's philosophy, but I disagreed on like some of the things she said subjectively about like architecture. So I like the decorative elements and the ornate wood, woodwork and stuff, because to me, I am living in this house a lot. And I want to see what has man created? What did
Hmm.
he do to make that doorknob beautiful? He added little acanthus leaves or he added little petals or something. And I get to look at that every day and be reminded. Like someone wearing a tattoo and it brings your attention to their arm. They're now looking at that arm more intently with more of that orientation because they
Yeah.
somebody put a black square on it. I don't know, something or a triangle or whatever. But it's that reminder, visual reminder, um, that somebody made something and they took the time to make it. And that is, I mean, that to me is why art is so important too, is because it's reminding you the purpose of life and why, you know, what it means to live as a human being and why you want to keep living.
Ornate. decor, that's orientation in your life, and that's pleasure. When you
Oh yeah.
orient, you see the meaning behind it, and that gives you pleasure. Man created this doorknob, man created the architecture.
Yeah.
There's a concept. Okay, so actually, nice. So you've identified a place in life where there's already orientation. There's orientation in your home.
Yeah.
You're naturally decorating your home and orienting to it. So orientation is already happening. There, the point I was just going to make, uh, there's a concept in organic intelligence called outsight. Outsight. And
Okay.
it refers to gaining insight. This is going to be simplified and not exact. For people who
Okay.
really know organic intelligence, you may object to what I'm going to do, but I'm just going to continue. It refers to gaining insight from orientation, as opposed to gaining insight directly intellectually, let's say with a therapist. So you may find yourself looking at something, at a doorknob in your home, or at a book, or at the wallpaper, or something, looking at a cabinet, and you're interested in orienting to that. And as you orient, content comes up inside. Doorknob, I'm just going to make stuff up. You're looking at the doorknob, man created that. Then you have an image of a guy doing something, and that comes into your writing the next day, and that gives you some insight about how to change your life so that you're less anxious. It works like that. Orientation, to the degree you can be in orientation, you get more of these inklings, we'll call them, inklings from the interior that point you in the well-being direction.
Yeah. In a couple of my YouTube videos, I talk about too that you want to be as a writer, like have a microscope on life and really take the time to look at things that are values and look at them and kind of like that, just wonder, why does this mean something to me? Why did this draw my attention? Um, and to pull out those values that you might not realize are values until you really are thinking about them or writing about them. And for me too, the writing process is I get to taste life twice. That kind of cliche notion of I get to look at something I've done, or I know that emotion where it came from, and look at it again. And instead of being, I might have been anxious in the moment, but now I'm looking at it later in a more calm state of mind, and then analyzing what happened, or analyzing, okay, this is what this means, or this is what this triggered, or this is why
Oh.
this happened. I mean, it's a process for me of this whole thing has been like one long kind of therapy session of how can I learn more about what makes life worth living, really.
Surrounding yourself with values really struck out at me. You said it a couple times, and every time you said it, it's like, oh, there was an oomph in my biology, like that was important. And you
Yeah.
connected it to surrounding yourself with orientation. So a lot of the values are like embodied in perceptual objects, right? Like,
Yes, but I feel like that also can be extremely isolating because as soon as I step outside and I go to the grocery store or something, and I don't know how I can like make this seem not offensive, but you see fat people or people who are dressed poorly or people who are not taking care of themselves. And as an objectivist, you want everybody to be the best, that you want everyone to have the same orientation toward values. You want them to value things, and it doesn't seem like they are. And that really can offend my sensibility. And so I tend to go back into the home, back into where my values are.
oh, I
Um,
see. Yeah,
and
yeah.
not outside as often because I am having trouble with people who are non-valuers or people who are not at all on the same plane of viewing life. And that's where, I blame Christianity somewhat too, because it takes away that responsibility. It says, well, you don't need to lose weight or you don't need to dress nicely because the only person that cares is the person upstairs. And like, if something happens to you, it's
Yeah.
not your fault. And so they don't take that personal
Hmm.
responsibility and they don't actively try to surround themselves with values. And it shows. And it frustrates me because I know people are capable of it. A lot more people are capable of it.
I want to bring in objectivism for myself here. So my my interest in thinking through and developing organic intelligence ideas
Hmm.
under my viewpoint called deregulation, it is shaped fundamentally by objectivism, which emphasizes the pursuit of values and happiness on earth in the world, involving world engagement. So that's the context that I share with you and that I assume in my whole thinking about organic intelligence ideas, orientation, pleasure, capacity growth, and deregulation. So some inorganic intelligence have a different orientation. They hold, well, the monk living in a cave, blissed out in orientation and pleasure all day, living alone in a cave, but super stable in orientation and pleasure. That's the model life.
Sure, sure.
I
Yeah.
depart there. No, it's living, pursuing values in the to a degree convention, quote unquote, conventional common sense way of you work, you have a career hopefully you enjoy, you have property, you have hobbies, you have loved ones, you have a partner. If you have children, you want children. You buy a car that you enjoy, you buy material objects you enjoy. It's you work on your physical appearance, you work on your intellectual growth, on your moral virtue, and that's all integrated into living
Right.
in the world, not the life of the monk in the cave, and definitely not the life of a self-sacrificial person, but the life of someone who's values themselves spiritually and physically and lives in the world and engages in it and fueled by orientation and pleasure. That's one thing I'm trying to bring into the objectivist world, the fundamental importance of orientation and pleasure for powering your rationality and your ability to act and achieve more effortlessly.
Yeah. Hmm.
In the recent objectivist conference in New Orleans, John Dennis, hi John, gave a talk defending discomfort. He said, "Well, we're too used to comfort. We need to go for productive discomfort." John, I am your arch nemesis in objectivism. I hold that you should be productive through comfort, not discomfort,
Interesting. Yeah.
through orientation and pleasure. Yeah, yeah.
You just had to throw that one in there. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what comfort is. It's orientation and pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I have so many thoughts going around that I don't even know which to pick out.
Oh, feel the fingers on the brain. Yeah. How about that? Is that pleasurable at all?
Well, I'm noticing how greasy it is.
Uh, Is that
Maybe
pleasurable at all?
sweaty.
I mean, you could
I
do
don't
that.
know. It
Okay.
is pleasurable right now because I'm trying to calm it down because there's so many things that we could cover or go to. I mean, because right now my brain is going to, okay, I did watch a video where I think you were talking about, you were
Wait,
asking a question, how,
I want to interrupt. I know I'm judicious when I interrupt, but let me just interrupt for a moment. Um, I just want to flag for you and the audience, when you were rubbing your fingers against your forehead, that could have been an opportunity. I'm not saying it for now in public, but on your own, it could be an opportunity to feel the pleasure of that. Just if you
okay,
yourself doing it in life, you could feel the pleasure of that. Okay. Okay.
okay.
All right. Please continue.
So
Please.
do you just like stay there with it until you feel the need to move on?
As long as it's pleasure. Remember how when you were orienting
Okay.
to me earlier and you were feeling excitement and pleasure, and
Yes.
then at some point it became awkward, then you stop when it becomes awkward. If you can
Yeah.
stop, if you can stop before it becomes awkward at all, that's preferable. So likewise, if you find yourself in life, you find yourself doing this with your rubbing your forehead, feel the pleasure of that, and then stop when you no longer feel the pleasure.
But you're still noticing it enough to stop and think about it, right?
If you can, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. The video I was going to mention
yeah,
was it was like where is trauma in your body and how much is it in your body? And then there's that mind-body dichotomy, which was going on. And
yeah,
I had recently read, oh, am I going to forget the name? It was uh, Vander Kolk or something, or
yeah,
um, it was about trauma in the body. And that I had spent so much time, especially because objectivists were like, well, you're thinking irrationally somewhere. Your anxiety is caused by thinking irrationally at some point down the chain. So I was thinking and thinking and thinking. And in therapy, you think and you think and you think more about the problem. And like you were saying, I had to start doing things physically as well to kind of get rid of that trauma as well. So it's not just it's like you need both in order to really combat the physical aspect.
What physical things did you do?
So, like I mentioned, the pregnancy kind of YouTube person. So I'll go and I'll turn her on every morning. So I usually do like one of her workouts, which are like 20 to 30 minutes, and then I'll also do the meditation at the end. And doing that is again focusing my mind on something that's physical, relaxing through my body, breathing. She goes through breathing techniques, the proper full belly breath, and then releasing. And I had been told over and over again to do meditation, but I wasn't told like do the same meditation every single day because every time I was changing like the Calm app and stuff, I was changing it. And that took my brain away from focusing on my environment and myself to, oh, that guy sounds different. Oh, that's a different video. Oh, I was still not, it wasn't a routine, it wasn't habitual. But doing exactly the same video every single morning, I know all the sounds, I know all the steps, allowed me to kind of get that space to just turn off, slow down, notice things,
Hmm.
orient myself to my day. And I do that first thing in the morning when I get up. And that I didn't, because I'm so cerebral, and that's what a lot of objectivists are, is cerebral. We don't even consider the rest of our body, including because our mind is obviously part of our body. And,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's not just the thought process, it's also doing everything else with the rest of your body. And I had to be kind of convinced of that because I was just hitting my head against the wall with thinking and thinking and thinking. And I still am doing that with all my reading, but it
Yes.
has to also be physical. And I think, my husband, having a husband he works out every morning really helped me get into a daily routine. I take Sundays off, but a daily routine of working out, of doing something physical. And again, like that ballet piece should have kind of warned me, like should have said, hey, your mind really quiets when you do ballet and it's really good for you. And it makes you feel less tired and refreshed afterwards because you've had that space to just not have the loud, commotion that is my mind going off all day.
I want to add orientation and pleasure here. So first of all, nice. So there's thinking and there's thinking and there's thinking and there's also getting into the body and getting into the body and getting into the body. And both are important and useful. And from an organic intelligence perspective, you want to prioritize orientation and pleasure in both cases. When is thinking more enjoyable? When is it less
Mm.
enjoyable? When is it more comfortable? When is it less comfortable? When is your attention lost in the interior thoughts and can't orient? When can you be oriented while thinking? And in regard to the body, when you're doing physical activity, when is it enjoyable? When is it not enjoyable? When is it comfortable? When is it not comfortable? When is attention lost in the body and can't orient? When can it be oriented while being in the body? For organic intelligence, so yes, mind and body activity are both important and within incubated within orientation and pleasure as much as possible. So that over time, you'll naturally feel good in your baseline because you'll be stable in orientation and pleasure, as opposed to having to do physical or mental activity XYZ to feel better. You'll just feel better
Mm.
automatically. And from that base, you can engage in mental or physical activity XYZ pleasurably. Yeah.
How long do you think have you seen a person like go through AI and or AI OI and change? I don't know. Or does it take like a lifetime to become like to have a base? Does it matter where your base starts? I mean, if you have an
Yeah.
attached parenting, foundation versus not unattached or
Okay. Large question,
yeah,
which could get a large answer, which I'm happy to do maybe now, or I don't know
another.
about now, but maybe at some point.
Okay.
But I want to give an anecdote because I think I get your question. How long will this take? I want to give one anecdote, and the anecdote is representative, not cherry picked. One of my clients CEO, hi, um, working 100 plus hours a week. Okay,
Mhm.
interested in organic intelligence. So 100 hours a week of working, especially if it's cerebral and taxing, that's quite a load on you.
Yeah.
And took him a while to buy into the OI process, but once he got in, there was a particular session. Um, he was looking at his fireplace, and we spent. I said, let's keep doing that.
Hmm.
So the session was, I think, to my memory, almost completely silent. There were very few words between us. It was him orienting to his fireplace 40, 45 minutes plus.
So you were watching him look at the fireplace.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm doing things. I'm observing him and doing certain things that gets into more advanced clinical stuff. But
sure,
let's just,
sure, sure.
but he was looking at his fireplace and reports that he got 3 days of feeling liberated. So, so meaning he was able to work, but more easily. So just
Yeah.
um, if you're doing that much, if you're working 100 plus hours a week, I don't know if I could help you grow your capacity, but at least it can buy you some liberation, some significant chunk of liberation. So that's why do I say that? I say that because that orientation, just allowing the system to settle
Yes.
and they unlocked some temporary capacity, got 3 days out of 7 of feeling great, and then the stress started to come back, but unsurprisingly. But that's an example of to show that orientation and pleasure can work at light speed and produce unimaginably great results, especially when they produce an idea that you couldn't predict, like, I want to take trumpet lessons. I've never thought about trumpets before ever. I barely even know what a trumpet is, but somehow music, trumpet lessons, and somehow you do that and you follow it, and somehow it unlocks capacity growth that you could never have predicted. Or
Wow.
I want to learn poker. I've never been interested in cards or gambling or odds or math or poker or anything, but I want to learn poker and I'm going to get a poker tutor and here I go. And that unlocks capacity. So when you're in states of orientation and pleasure, you get these unpredictable hunches or inklings that can potentiate, direct you in certain ways that unlock capacity growth. The fireplace example was not that example, but the fireplace example was to give an indication that or it's faster than the approach of discomfort. Why? Because the approach is comfort. So if you focus on
Hmm.
comfort, you'll get comfort faster than if you focus on discomfort.
What if it's like alcohol though? Like people relax with alcohol. Is that like if that's a thought that comes up, that's not a good thing
Well,
necessarily.
alcohol is not orientation, first of all. So
Okay.
okay, so I have many. You and I both share the feature of having a lot of thoughts,
Rub
and
your head, rub your
but
head.
yeah, rub your head. Yeah, no, it has to be organic. So in
Oh,
your case, you rub your head. In my case, I
oh,
don't think.
okay.
Yeah, right. It has to be. It's organic intelligence. So
Okay.
rubbing your head would be the control strategy. If you have, well, one of my strategies, I'm going to rub my head, so I'm going to do that whenever I feel stressed. No, it has to be organic. It
Okay. Well,
organic.
so I have to figure out yours, but
Yeah,
that's
right,
neither
right.
here nor there.
So you were on.
Oh, alcohol. So if your mind is like, I should have
Oh,
alcohol, more
okay. First of
alcohol,
all,
that's not something. Okay.
okay.
I'm misunderstanding something.
Oh no, I do want to address that though. So
Okay.
uh the first reply to your comment about alcohol is it's orientation and pleasure, not just pleasure. So alcohol would be, you could offer alcohol as an example of pleasure. My first comment is that first of all, there's orientation also. I mean, orientation is absolutely important in addition to pleasure, especially pleasure within the context of orientation. So I'm just reminding us all of that. Orientation, which enables the system to be at a baseline level of comfort so that you're not pursuing pleasures that have the form of pain relief or pain prevention, which alcohol could be. I'm feeling uncomfortable or I will be uncomfortable unless I drink, so let me drink. Now, as a rough rule of thumb, from an organic intelligence perspective, whatever pleasure is available to you and that you know you're going to pursue anyway, enjoy it. If you're gonna go for the drink, if you're gonna go for the donut, if you're gonna go for the slot machines, if you're gonna go for the online poker, um, I'm just gonna say it, even though I may be opening up a controversy. If you know you're gonna cheat on your partner, if you know you're gonna pursue some pleasure, and you know that you're not gonna not do it, I'm just stipulating that you're gonna go
Yeah.
for the alcohol, you're gonna go for the whatever, enjoy it because you want to get as much practice in pleasure. I'm not saying you should cheat. I'm not saying you should have the drink, but I'm saying if you know you're going to enjoy it because you want to get used to aiming at pleasure and especially orientation if you can. By contrast, if you shame yourself while drinking or smoking pot or the ketamine or the frog poison or whatever it is, then you're increasing intensity because unpleasant intensity tends to be higher than pleasant intensity. Pleasure reduces intensity, gets you closer to orientation. So enjoy your gluten, your carbs, your cigarette, your whatever it is, your reality TV shows, marathon binging.
Uh-huh.
As a rough rule of thumb, let me just say, as a rough rule of thumb, when we're talking about seriously harmful life and death situations, different protocols. But so I just want to be clear for my audience, I am not saying always enjoy every pleasure without any kind of inhibition. There could be cases where inhibition serves to move you towards orientation and pleasure, but overall, inhibitory efforts tend to jack up intensity and keep intensity high, which reinforces that addiction. By contrast, enjoying your French fries, your donut, your alcohol, your sexual promiscuity, et cetera, enjoying it tends to reduce intensity, increasing likelihood of orientation. Sorry if that was really repetitive and verbose, but okay.
No, it's good. So I have two thoughts. So, in terms of the alcohol or any really drug, like the orientation, does it have to be clear? Do you need that clarity? Because when you mar it with the drugs too, is that no longer orientation? Do you see what I'm saying?
Okay. One quick point. For organic intelligence, in the context of organic intelligence, pleasure usually refers, the standard meaning of pleasure is healthy, non-addictive, not too intense, non-intoxicant related pleasure. I'm just naming that. At the same time,
Okay.
caffeine, alcohol, pot counts as pleasure, so enjoy it. Now, it, when I said to you orientation, I meant to just reinforce that I meant to just remind us that orientation is important. It's not just pleasure. It's orientation and pleasure.
Right.
Right. Okay.
And I know that like in objectivism, there's definitely, and I know we get that question all the time, like, well, you could just be a hedonist and go and do, and then we're like, no, 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 you have to be rational. That's the whole rational happiness,
Well,
pleasure. That's
oh yeah,
different from
may I,
hedonism.
yeah. So I'm assuming an objectivist context. So I'm assuming you're interested.
Good luck
Uh,
with the
uh,
majority of people out there. But yeah,
yeah, I'm not right. But
yeah.
I'm no. When I talk about organic intelligence and my own view deregulation, I'm assuming an objectivist
Okay.
perspective, which differs from the perspective of other people, including depending on how you interpret organic intelligence. So some people interpret organic intelligence to mean orientation and pleasure leads you to being the monk in a cave where you just bliss on orientation and pleasure. You're not actually engaging with life outside the cave. No. If that's organic intelligence, then I disagree with that part of organic intelligence. I'm assuming in the context of, you're pursuing values and life and happiness on earth in many conventional ways. And orientation and pleasure is the fundamental fuel for rationality in regard to that pursuit. So yes, when I mention pleasure, many people will go straight to, well, what does that mean? Drinking, gambling, and then suicide at 30? No, because
Right.
I'm assuming you're already oriented towards your well-being. The question is how to get that, and from an organic intelligence perspective, you want to grow capacity. How do you do that? You want orientation and pleasure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I forgot to mention with the monk example, I'm not convinced that that monk is actually reaching happiness and that it stays the same. I mean, I don't think there is any such thing of like, because you then it would just become an average feeling, emotion. It would not be this high pinnacle that we reach sometimes. I mean, I don't believe that that's
Yes.
even possible, really.
Oh,
To lose your ego and to not have anything there but like a shell and just be in this, I just don't.
and I want to support saying many, many who are in the world of meditation and mindfulness and Buddhism and
Buddhism, yeah.
that galaxy, they explicitly or implicitly regard equanimity as superior to happiness or equanimity as superior to
Ah,
pleasure. And I'm saying you guys are wrong. You should change your views and yourselves, and you should value pleasure over equanimity. Equanimity is valuable for the sake of pleasure. You're driving on the freeway or you're driving and someone's tailgating you. It's annoying.
yes.
If you had more equanimity, meaning, by the way, more stability and orientation and pleasure, you wouldn't be as bothered. That's good. So equanimity compared to being in unpleasant intensity because of the tailgater, that's good because it's closer to pleasure. But but equanimity compared to pleasure, you want pleasure. Pleasure is good. I mean, I
Because otherwise you're just neutral. You're not feeling really anything. I mean, and that's why I don't know what people mean when they say like heaven when they're always feeling pleasure because it's the same idea. Like, what are you feeling? You're feeling nothing. I mean, if you're always in this state of
yes.
pleasure, you're
What
just
one
not
comment,
feeling anything.
yeah. In the range of low intensity states, which you could describe as feeling chill, feeling relaxed, feeling neutral, feeling
You
nothing,
can.
there can
Yeah.
be pleasure in that.
Yes.
At the same time, high intensity pleasure is great and pleasure is good. And Ayn Rand said the two fundamental sensations are pleasure and pain, not equanimity and pain. Pleasure pointing you, pleasure indicating a right course of action, pain indicating a wrong course of action.
And I feel like that is through therapy and self-awareness and all that stuff, I have gotten to a point where I'm content with my life and I have the peaks of happiness, and that is
Mm.
made by pleasure and values. But I'm still searching, I'm still haunted. So I'm still working through, my own needs. I still
Yeah.
am searching. I mean, I haven't reached an end. I don't know if there is an end, but you know.
I want to, what's coming from me is I want to make a point that may disagree with objectivism, depending on how you interpret it. So I have a view
Okay.
that may disagree with objectivism. So in objectivism, there's a distinction drawn between motivation by fear and motivation by love. Are you going for career X because you genuinely bona fide love it and so you're motivated by love, or are you going for career X because you're for the money and you're scared of being poor, and only if you have at least 5 million in your bank account will you feel safe, and if you have less than 5 million in your bank account then you can't sleep at night, so that's motivation by fear. The career is motivation by fear, right? Okay, so um okay, first I understand that distinction, and in general I do support it as an important distinction. I'm going to criticize it in a moment, but in general, I do support, in a sense, the distinction between motivation by love versus motivation by fear. And outside of objectivism, analogously, in the context of behaviorism, I know there are concerns with behaviorism, but the distinction between appetitive and aversive behavior, I buy that. Uh, However, from an organic intelligence perspective, orientation and pleasure are supreme, meaning that if working and saving does help you feel better. Like I can't sleep at night unless I have at least 5 million in my bank account. If it goes to 49999, whatever it is, then I can't sleep.
Yeah.
Um, so I have to keep working and saving. I can't buy that piece of gum. Um, if that makes you feel better, do that because it's pleasure. Yes, it would fall under motivation by fear rather than motivation by love. But the way to get to motivation by love most efficiently and most optimally is to stabilize an orientation in pleasure, not to just try to effort at motivation by love as opposed to motivation by fear. Like you need to get out of your fear and just you need to like just stop working and just expose yourself to the discomfort of losing your savings and just learn. No, because that gets you habituated to discomfort. You want to get to motivation by love through orientation and pleasure whenever possible, not through exposure to discomfort.
I think it's tied to sacrifice, and that you're not really sacrificing because you want something. You need to go through the hard work to earn that and to gain those, just like with the, virtues. She talks about the seven virtues. So in order to feel pride, you need to earn that. That's different than like, I need to sacrifice, I need to, there's some connection there. I don't know if I've completely made it.
Oh, okay. Good.
Because I don't think you're wrong. And I
No,
don't necessarily think it's
yeah,
opposed.
no. I want to say something. I'm not sure if I'm hitting exactly what you're saying, but let me just
Okay.
okay. So many objectivists, and this could be part of objectivism, uphold the value of hardship in pursuing your happiness, and many conventional mainstream advice, much of that supports that too. Discomfort, effort is good, discomfort is good. So, and Ayn Rand love that Spanish proverb: take what you want and pay for it. Whatever you want, go for it, but pay the price. And the price is the hardship, discomfort, struggle, suffering, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Now, objectivists would say, but that hardship is good because it's self-interested. It's for the sake of your happiness, not for the sake of self-sacrifice. So they would distinguish that hardship from the hardship of self-sacrifice. I'm on board with that. Now, how I'm coming at this from an organic intelligence perspective is that hardship is not as necessary as you think it is. A lot of that is not as necessary as you think it is. And the better way is to find a way to get the values pleasurably and comfortably. So the so the better way is to attain the values through orientation and pleasure whenever you can. Yes, medical school may be hard, military may be hard. There are things about your job you don't like, et cetera, et cetera. But it's still true that the more you can minimize the displeasure, the better. The more you can maximize the pleasure and orientation, the better. There's one more point I want to make, which I really want my brain to furnish it. So you want to pursue values as pleasurably as possible.
There's a difference between motivation of love by fear.
Oh yeah, thank you. Oh, by the way, I thank you deeply for that because thank you for tracking me. I appreciate that. You gave me a lot of pleasure. The 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 distinction between motivate when objectivists say, and hi Gene, I know I'm criticizing you, but we're good. I mean, love you, Gene. Okay, so when Gene is like, don't do defense values, you don't want to be motivated by fear, you want to be motivated by love, and all. It's not just Gene, it's not just Gene Maroney, it's like all objectivists, all people except for me, except for OI people. Motivation by fear is valuable. It can be valuable because it's your way of reducing discomfort. It's your way of feeling better. So, and that feeling better, that deepening in pleasure and orientation is important for being able to be motivated by love in the most efficient way possible, which is through pleasure. So I'm against, and organic intelligence is against people who would say, well, hi Tal, I know I'm criticizing you Tal, and every other objectivist I know, but we'll say, well, you have to, if what you want is to start your own business, if you what you want is to start your own business, but you're scared of doing it because you're scared of putting your full-time safe job, you just got to do it. You just got to quit tomorrow, and then even though you're deathly afraid, I would say let's not. Yeah, I don't. I mean, context, different people, but no, I would not jump to that conclusion. You want to another option is start stabilizing in orientation and pleasure as much as possible as you entertain the idea of going off on your own, quitting your job, starting your own business. Grow orientation as much and pleasure as much as possible, uh, so that you can pursue what you love with less fear, so that you don't. So sticking with the current career of stability may provide important opportunities for orientation and pleasure. And and the not just objectivists, this is just people in general. The people who gravitate towards do what's uncomfortable. You're scared of asking that girl out, do it anyway. You're scared of quitting your job, putting all your money into a venture capital thing that 97% chance of failure. You just got to do it. Okay.
Mhm.
But if you do that, um, okay, sorry. Damn it. Brain, help me. What one thing that fuels people advocating discomfort and doing what you're afraid of doing is that there is an attraction to intensity. This So many people are attracted to what's intense, whether it's painful or pleasurable. So, oh my God, quitting my safe job and starting my own business, that's intense. And then people are attracted, oh, if it's intense, that must be what's good. That must be productive. Oh, you had a therapy session and you cried the whole way through and it was like a nightmare. That must be good. That means it's productive because it was intense. Oh, you went to this guy named Bach and you looked at a fireplace. He's just laughing all the way to the bank. Nothing happened. You just stared at a fireplace. It was comfortable. That's not productive. Productive is crying about your mom and how she abused you. Organic intelligence is suggesting something fundamentally different. What's productive is low intensity. What's productive is comfort. What's productive is pleasure. What's productive is orientation, looking at the fireplace, feeling your fingers on your forehead,
Yeah.
because you're stabilizing an orientation and pleasure. And that is the way to reduce motivation by fear comfortably and increase motivation by love comfortably.
Okay.
Okay.
So while you
That was verbal diarrhea. I know I got carried away, but
Yeah, well, I don't know if this will help, but while you were doing that, I looked up, I always go to, when I forget a specific definition that Ayn Rand has, I go to the Ayn Rand lexicon and I look up the definition. So there is the motivation by love versus fear, and of course, this is in Galt's speech, so it's not always brought out, but it is for the new intellectual, but it's referring to Galt's speech. So sometimes we have to we don't have an exact definition, we have to parse through her speeches and her fiction.
yes.
But she says about it, achieving life is not the equivalent of avoiding death. Joy is not the absence of pain. You seek escape from pain. We seek the achievement of happiness. You exist for the sake of avoiding punishment. We exist for the sake of earning rewards. Threats will not make us function. Fear is not our incentive. It is not death that we wish to avoid, but life that we wish to live. You who have lost the concept of the difference, you who claim that fear and joy are incentives of equal power, and secretly add that fear is the more practical, you do not wish to live, and only fear of death still holds you to the existence you have damned. So I think it's kind of just a perspective thing too. I mean, for me, my end goal is not just to avoid death. I mean, it is to enjoy life. I mean, and I feel like here she's talking against the people who are upholding you have to struggle, you have to suffer. That's part of the beauty. Or a lot of Christians will talk about in novels, they want to see the hero that gives up his life because that is the ultimate form of expression and beauty, is to give up yourself. But what are you giving yourself up for? Just to, ego death, or if you're giving it up for someone you cannot live without, that's very different. That's selfish. That's not selflessness. And that's motivation by love, not by fear. So
Yeah.
it's who you're talking about and who you're talking to. It's that orientation. So I don't think you're off. I think
Okay.
you're talking about good people who want
All
to
right.
escape fear.
So actually, thank you, Kaitlyn. Thank you. I think I am not disagreeing with objectivism here. And by the way, if I were, I would have no problem saying that, but I think I'm not. So you helped me come to this thought.
Mm-hmm.
In what you just quoted in Galt's speech about the distinction between motivation by love and fear, in that context, I'm 100% in support, because that
Yeah,
context is the hero who's pursuing happiness versus the villain who's trying to destroy anyone who wants to be happy. So in
right.
that context, 100,000% yes. Motivation by love, good. Motivation by fear, evil. Totally wrong. You, uh, Confronting your hatred of life and success and happiness is so scary, but you're going to double down on it and not support happiness. No, that's totally wrong. That's so. But I'm so right. My context is not the villain. My context is someone who genuinely wants to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
There's a girl he's attracted to. He's scared of asking her out. all his objectivist friend, all his friends are saying, you got to ask a girl out, you got to be uncomfortable, you got to don't be, I mean, or be afraid, but you got to act because you're afraid, you got to ask her out, not run away. No, I'm saying, because asking her out may raise intensity really unpleasantly high and traumatize you. And going home and staring at your aquarium, which your friends will criticize you for, you're avoiding, your motivation by fear, you're not in love. That may be exactly right, because you're orienting and you're settling down and you're stabilizing in comfort, which is what grows your capacity, is that over time you can ask her out less uncomfortably, maybe even comfortably. So that's the context in which I'm talking about motivation by love versus motivation by fear, not the hero versus villain, but the genuinely intentioned the person who genuinely wants to pursue and achieve their happiness, and who has behaviors that many people would criticize as avoidance or motivation by fear, but which behaviors are genuinely valuable because they're protecting that person's capacity and they're promoting that person's comfort and pleasure and orientation, which is crucial to growing their capacity, so that then they can perform behaviors that before would have been called risk taking, but are no longer risk taking because they're comfortable. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, I think
okay.
I'm following you.
Okay.
And back to, because I think you were trying to connect this maybe to that my anxiety might seem like it's motivation from fear. I'm trying to get away from that anxiety. I'm trying to fix myself or something. So but it's not a bad thing. It is a motivation for me to be this ambitious, to continue to read things that I think in another podcast you were talking about. You are reading things that are hard to read. Like you said, you didn't like Moby Dick, but I read it and I appreciated it for what it was doing. But it's not my favorite book either, because it didn't reach me emotionally where I needed it to reach me. Like Ayn Rand did, or like some very specific books will reach me. And that doesn't mean that it's good for everybody, but for me, I needed that voice to help me continue along this journey. And so there is motivation, and I don't consider myself a bad person. I think I'm a good person, but there is that motivation by the anxiety and the trauma pushing me forward every day to do these things. I mean, this is my whole life.
Yeah, thank you. So if someone were to say, oh, Kaitlyn, you said that you write because it helps you with your anxiety, but that's kind of motivation by fear and not healthy, because that's just your coping mechanism. It's no different from drinking. You don't drink, Kaitlyn,
Right.
writing, but that's your motivation by fear. I would say to that person, first of all, what if she doesn't, I mean, if Kaitlyn were saying, what I really want to do is become an astronaut, but that's too scary, so I'm going to write because that reduces my fear, then I would say, okay,
yeah.
maybe keep writing so that it helps with your anxiety. That's good, but like, let's kind of nudge you along the astronaut direction if that's what you really want to do. But if writing is what you want to do and it's motivation by fear, then it's less plausible to criticize you for being motivation by fear, because that's what you want to do also. So that's one thing I would say. Second thing I would say is, if it is motivation, the motivation by fear is good because you're avoiding pain. You're writing to avoid pain. I just want to say that is good, period. That is good, period. If someone says, Kaitlyn, you're writing to avoid pain, that's not good. No, it's exactly good, because you're promoting orientation and pleasure. Now, ultimately, we want to be able to feel pleasure without pain, and we want to be able to feel pleasure that's not just relief or prevention of pain, and that's where orientation comes in. So through practice of orientation and pleasure, you stabilize. Now, maybe I'm just gonna make stuff up. Maybe, let's say, as you stabilize in orientation and pleasure, you start having thoughts like, being an astronaut would be kind of cool. Maybe that's so. And then over time, you want to become an astronaut, so that in hindsight, we realize, oh, you wanted to become an astronaut. Well, we wouldn't even know you want to become an astronaut. It's just that when you get the desire to become an astronaut, that's when you have the desire. So fine, then you become an astronaut, then you overwriting. But
fear shouldn't be holding you back from doing that.
Right. But it could be that as you stabilize in orientation and pleasure, you still want to be a writer. So uh so it's just not it's let me even I'm going to make up something. So let's say hypothetically, I'm not saying this, Kaitlyn, but someone someone abused you and you want to write a novel about that person where you get revenge on them. And then someone says, well, Kaitlyn, that's not healthy because you're in the past and you want to heal from your abuse so that you don't. By the way, does that mean there are no revenge novels and no revenge genre? That's just totally illegitimate and that's ridiculous. But so
Yeah.
Kaitlyn, you want to heal. You're writing this revenge novel against your abuser is not healthy. It is because it's pleasurable. It's helping you sort stuff out. It's reducing your pain. It's increasing your pleasure. Now they say, yeah, but Kaitlyn, but what if you went to therapy and then you fully healed from your abuser and you no longer have the desire to write that novel? Okay, but what if she doesn't want to do that? I mean, maybe. So if that's where pleasure's leading her, then do that. Fine. So if you want to do
Or
therapy and heal, and then that's enjoyable, and then you naturally find that you no longer want to write the novel, or you write a novel about happy things and not revenge things, fine. But
or for me, like
yeah.
a therapist didn't help me. Like that, this is my only outlet that I found for relief, really.
Yes. So that was nice. So you're following pleasure. Like therapy is not helping me. What is helping me? Writing. So you follow the breadcrumbs of pleasure, and I would add orientation.
Hmm.
It's easy when we get into just orientation, but you're trying to because that's what stabilizes intensity and allows pleasure to persist without swinging to pain. There's so much
Okay.
going on here, but yeah, right.
Okay.
So
Yep.
so what you're doing is so the two fundamentals of organic intelligence, orientation and pleasure, could be taken as the specific approach you're doing in therapy, or could be taken as wider markers. Like, what is helping you? Is it CBT? Is it acupuncture? Is it ballet? Is it writing? Is it staying in your room? Is it going outside? Is it going outside but not looking at fat people? Or is it like or whatever? I mean, just
Yeah.
you follow pleasure and orientation.
Because, and I get that that's why you think the body is trying to naturally heal itself. I did get that from your videos, that it's trying, it just doesn't, because we have free will, it's so hard sometimes to figure out what is
Yeah.
the way to fix yourself.
One some examples that happened in our session today were you were orienting to me and feeling excited for some number of moments. That was an example of the biology trying to increase capacity, heal itself. And then the fingers on the forehead, that was an example of the biology. So these signs of the body trying to heal itself or organize itself or increases, they're different buzzwords for the same phenomenon, but these signs come up all the time. Focusing on orientation and pleasure increases the emergence of these signs and your ability to notice and lean into these signs. And mainstream protocols of effort, control, direct attention, CBT, do this, do that, will have a tendency to interfere with the emergence, noticing, and leaning into these signs.
Interesting. Okay.
The protocol you do on YouTube, the physical exercise, the meditation, what if you don't want to do it on a certain day? What if you want to stop halfway? What if you're meditating and then you want French fries? Do you think, well, no, that's I have to finish meditating and then I'll think about whether to get French fries? Or what if you just drive and get French fries? And what if you're eating the French fries and you see a fat person? And what if when you see that fat person, you don't feel unpleasant? That would be huge, but you can't predict that. It has to you follow the
Yeah.
breadcrumbs of pleasure to see what you end up.
But the reason you wouldn't eat the fries is if you are health conscious. So I don't know how, because then that would be just not comfortable anymore. That wouldn't be pleasurable.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. I good. So there's a lot of no because there's different situations. So let's say you eat fries a lot and you're trying to lose weight
Yeah.
and you're meditating and that's helping and then you have some desire for fries. It would make more sense to resist the fries and keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
When I mentioned French fries, I was assuming, I didn't say this because it is, I had in mind that you never eat fries, you never even think about them.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it has to, I needed to know what the
Right,
person,
sorry, yeah,
their
yeah.
orientation. Yeah.
It was, and I didn't make that clear because this is just not free association conversation. But
Yes.
it was like
Sure. Yes.
I never. It was like the trumpet example or the poker example. Like I've never thought about
Yes.
trumpet, but let's say you never eat French fries. You never even think about them. And you only eat Asian food, but you suddenly have this desire for French fries. It seems to come out of nowhere, and the more you buy into orientation and pleasure and their value, the more likely you are to follow the impulse. Because instead of thinking like, well, that's kind of weird, I'll just keep meditating and it must go away. But what if you just got into your car, drove to the place, got French fries, and you may have you could see someone having all these thoughts like, why am I doing this? This is pointless. This is just where the hell is
Yeah.
it taking me? I mean, this is just what the hell am I doing? But you're following the breadcrumbs of orientation and pleasure and seeing where it goes because that is what tends to lead you to greater capacity.
That's so interesting. I feel like I've never heard that being
That's
okay before because you're often not, you're supposed to keep doing what you're doing. You're supposed to be disciplined. You're supposed to not.
that's
That seems like wishy-washy behavior, like you just going to where your body feels like going. And yet intuitive eating is like that. So if you listen to your body, you'll
right.
feel terrible after eating that whole bag of chips because you'll be like, whoa, my sodium is like way up high. I feel terrible. Whereas if you'd listened to it and you stopped or you chewed slower or you took a moment, you'd be like, oh, I should probably stop eating these. I'm full. I don't actually need another one. And you would feel better as a result of that. So like following your body's messages.
Yes, it good. So I could see objective saying, well, that's just whim worship. You felt like
Right.
having French fries and you went to French fries. It's not whim worship because pleasure is rationally validated as beneficial, first of all. So go back. I mean, so there's that. And
But those
it's not
fries are not beneficial to your body necessarily because they're usually
that's
fried in oils and
no,
stuff.
but your point is Kayla, I think your point is too small though, because it's yeah,
Okay.
so a thousand things are going to be unhealthy, but wider context, long-term pleasure. I mean, that's
Yeah.
not. I mean, it's cookies, ice cream are good, are values, even though they're so. I'm just going to assume that
Okay.
you're on board with like pleasure is good, even though you get some bad consequences, but blah 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 blah. Okay, so
Okay. Yes.
okay, so French fries. Uh, but it's not women worship because first of all, pleasure is rationally validated as good. Second, because if you replace French fries with jump off a bridge, then 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 I would say no because that would kill you. So don't do that. So there's
Yes.
already a pre-screening of French fries passes the test of rational. Okay. Or I feel like messaging my ex who abused me. I feel like doing that. I'll just do that. No, because there should be there's some kind of rational structure. But in this case, it wasn't just impulse. It was the impulse and the content was French fries, which is fine. It's not jump off a bridge. It's not get have a drink when you're an alcoholic. It's not contact the guy who choked you. It's have French fries.
Hmm.
Um, and that can potentiate so orientation and pleasure process grows capacity, and that can look very unpredictable
Mm.
and
Okay.
make uh uh no sense to people or yourself beyond the fact that it's a pleasure, and that pleasure is rationally validated as good and as part of what grows capacity. So you may have impulses to do things that make no sense in the sense of fitting into your preconceived a
Behavior.
plan,
Yeah.
but it's important for capacity growth. It's
Super
crucial for
interesting.
capacity growth. And I have examples, so I think examples would help. I mean, there are
Okay.
so the I'm kind of buying my time, but any time you have an idea to do something that's that you didn't expect or that it feels unlike you. But if it's interesting and pleasurable, go for it. So,
Hmm.
um, I had a poker phase. I had the impulse to learn poker, and I hired a poker tutor who was very expensive. I put a lot of money into learning poker, and I was getting deep into math, and we were and preparing to what if I actually enter a local poker tournament,
Uh-huh.
throughout the process it was very weird because I don't think about poker much. And then at some point, and I remember one of our sessions, we were reviewing some situation, some hand, and he said, you always want to make the right decision. Now, that sentence that he said, you always want to make the right decision. If you just look at the content of that, it's pretty vacuous. It's not like this deep insight. You always want to make it's
But
kind of
right
empty.
is
Yeah.
pleasurable.
Well, no, by right, I mean mathematically, math in the poker
Oh,
context.
oh, okay, okay.
But when he said you always want to make the right decision, that landed in
Okay.
my biology, in my psyche. So
Hmm.
I already knew you always want to make the right decision. That's obvious. It's so obvious it's not worth saying. It's just obvious and empty and whatever. But he said it in that context of my pursuing this poker thing. And one day, by the way, I just lost interest in poker and I stopped playing. But to this day, that one sentence has stuck with me, that you always want to make the right decision. And in times in life, I see that Zoom meeting where we were on, and he said, you always want to make the right decision. And that has helped me. Now, why? Because my biology followed the impulse of pleasure. I'm going to learn poker. Okay, I'm going to hire a poker tutor. This doesn't make sense. I'm just wasting money. I'm quote unquote wasting money on this expensive poker tutor when I'm not even going to. I'm probably going to lose interest in poker in a few months, which is what happened. I predicted that. It was, but I got this. Um, you always want to make the right decision, and that has helped me, by the way, in very pivotal life moments.
Hmm.
So there can be a quality of randomness about, like, so then how do you live? I mean, how do you, yeah, so it's kind of, you have to kind of let go of control a bit and just kind of follow orientation and pleasure and see what it takes you.
Which
Hope
is
you don't,
very difficult for
yeah,
someone with anxiety when your whole point is that you want to maintain that control all the time, all day long.
yes. And ultimately what you want is to be able to access pleasant letting go of control. Pleasant letting go of control, which were you experiencing some of that when you were orienting at me way earlier in this interview, when you're orienting in excitement? Was that kind of, you're just kind of letting it be?
Yeah. But also because when you have another person to listen to you, to hear you and your thoughts about something so specific, and you've said niche before, it is very niche to put like OI and objectivism together. To be
Yes.
able to talk about it and release that is an extremely pleasurable feeling.
Yes. So I think you got a taste of it. And what I'm trying to introduce to the objectivist world, I'm trying to introduce the OI world to objectivism. I'm trying to introduce the
Okay.
objectivist world to the OI. And it is so profoundly important and valuable. And my efforts to do all the video and the Substack writing, and I'm writing a book. By the way, to my audience, the reason I haven't been posting recently is that I'm writing a book on this stuff, which hopefully will be done sooner rather than later. Um, uh, sorry. So
So you have
no,
a lot of
no,
things
no,
going on.
I haven't gone anywhere. But I'm having to write this book, so I can't publish as much on YouTube. Um, where was I?
So it's super important to bring it to the objectivists,
Yeah,
but
so I think that the ideas, I'm able to present organic intelligence in 1 second and 2 words. Orientation, pleasure. So
yeah.
if you ask me what is organic intelligence, I can do it in 1 second, 2 words. Orientation, pleasure. Forget the and. You don't even the and. At the same time, we could, in this conversation, there were moments where, oh, you were getting something right. I was saying something and like, oh, this is actually like path breaking, like this is like profound. And I'm trying to get that too. And so all my videos and Substack posts and their book I'm writing are trying to get that. And then I've been wondering whether to ask some of my objectivist clients and CEO clients to do testimonial videos where they explain, but I think more important right now is the book because it's more important for longevity. But I'm trying to communicate the profound value here in organic intelligence for rationality, for focus, for living, for happiness, for unlocking capacity. I think it is just shots fired. It's like better than everything else by light years. And I know other objectivists are into CBT and EMDR and flow and
I've
but
tried it. I've been there.
it's like this whatever. I'm beyond caring how much criticism I get. So this is what orientation and pleasure is like 5 zillion times better than everything else.
Am I allowed to ask, do you have personal experience or personal reasons why you've clung to this so deeply?
Oh, so yeah, so this is so I had a lot of experience with mainstream therapies, CBT, psychodynamic, and then I was plateauing in psychodynamic process, and my psychotherapist at the time said, well, you might want to consider the somatic experiencing. Went to somatic experiencing. This is like deeper, but it was very unpleasant. It was very unpleasant to track my bodily sensations. And then, but at the time I thought, oh, it's very unpleasant, so it must be productive because what's unpleasant is deep, what's uncomfortable is deep. And then that practitioner started getting into organic intelligence, which is an offshoot of somatic experiencing, which prioritizes orientation and pleasure. And when I experienced orientation and pleasure, I thought, okay, this is good. This is at least this is important. And then over time, not only is this important, this seems really deep and fundamental. And then over
Mhm.
time, this is actually better than everything else. And by the way, that process required working through biases because I was biased against OI. I was thinking, no, how could all the other things be inferior to this? Because I wanted psychodynamic process to be better. I wanted cognitive process to be better. I wanted discomfort to be better because it was just, but being objective, this is just 1,000 times better than anything else. By the way, one aspect of that is that orientation and pleasure are offered as a container for all other processes. So if you have competing approaches like CBT, DBT, whatever it is, you want to contain it within orientation and pleasure, which 10x is its value. So through a long period of just trial and error and experimentation, orientation and pleasure are better. And then I started training in organic intelligence. I got deep within it. I started publishing with its founder. We had a falling out. There's drama there.
Oh,
Um, Connected and within organic intelligence, orientation and pleasure is the essence. And I've done a lot of thinking, and orientation and pleasure is what I need to repeat over and over again as much as possible and cover from 1,000 angles to try to land this in the world, especially including the objectivist community. I forgot your question was how did I get to it? So it was
yeah.
through observation, experience, and thinking. I've done a lot of thinking,
Hmm.
and part of the thinking is thinking through OI theory and what parts I disagree with and what parts I would reconceptualize. But as far as I've seen, I'm on to something that's quite important, which has required a lot of sacrifice, but use quote unquote sacrifice in the sense of using up time and energy trying to develop something that is very alien.
And
Uh,
that's why it's good that we're talking about this while it's recorded because I don't know as much about it. And so you explaining it to a layman who doesn't know anything, that'll
and
show you where you need to
yeah,
emphasize
yeah.
things or explain to me.
And it makes, but I'm heartened that, but by the fact that as we've been talking, you've understood what I'm saying, and you sense that I'm making some kind of sense.
Yes.
And it's interesting, and like I'm onto something. You may be onto something, Bach, with this and that point, and that point, the other point, and right, the French fries and the touching the
Yes.
forehead and the orientation, right? So it is the way forward, and at this, it is radical and alien,
Yes.
and at the same time, I think there are. It is in a sense it is obvious. It is so I want to in I, that may have been an
I
overstatement,
think
but
it's
let me
obvious
say something.
to
Let me
like 3-year-olds before they get out into the
right.
world.
Okay, right. So yes, so maybe yes, something like that. I want to share an anecdote. So a session, hi to that client. So she she's coming at me from a lot of having a lot of experience with mainstream therapy, like discomfort. You got to effort, you got to control things, you got to direct attention, you got to do what expose yourself to what's uncomfortable. And then, but she discovered me, and then through a referral, got into my content. What's this orientation thing? What's this pleasure thing? And then so she was doing orientation. She was experiencing phenomenal progress with pleasure, and got very curious. And then I remember at one point she asked, like, okay, so what do I do? Like, how do I implement OI? Like, let's say I want to practice it right now. What do I do? And I said, you look for pleasure. For example, oh, when I sit in my chair, that feels good. Oh, when I get into bed, that feels good. And then, oh, when you go out, because she was going to go out, and after that session, she was going to go out, and I was go out. Okay, so she said, what do I do when I go out? Concretely, what do I do? I said, you look for pleasure. Like, oh, that tree's kind of cool. Oh, that restaurant, that looks kind of cool. I'm getting some pleasure from looking at that restaurant. And she had the reaction of wide eyes, like, this makes so much sense. It makes like the idea of looking for pleasure. I think she said something like, "It's crazy how crazy that sounds. It should not sound crazy." But you're saying you look for pleasure. Yes, that's you look for feeling
Yes.
better. That's the direction.
And I absolutely think that is something that's not new in a way because poets think that way. I mean, poets are pulling out from, usually it's nature, but they're pulling values and they're putting them into just a few words on a page. And I feel like that's why we're looking for very similar things because in my writing, I am showing examples constantly of probably what you would call orientation and pleasure. I don't know if I'm using it right yet, but I am pulling those values into the page and it's lyrical. People call it lyrical and they call it, I don't know, philosophical, psychological. There are these big terms and you put them into things, really. I mean, I'm talking about reality. So I'm pointing out something very real, very concrete, but all of this value and pleasure is flooded into such simple things, which is why a lot of people say, like, for me, there's no like plot that's driving it forward, but to me, the whole plot can be within one scene, like similar to, some short dramas that are just like in one setting, but there's so much happening in the emotional landscape. I mean, I feel like that's why, yeah, I mean, writers are very much trying to do that, I think, the good ones.
Yes, orientation has to be in the fabric of what you're doing. That was a weird
Yes.
sentence, kind of poetic, but maybe you're having an influence on me, positive influence. So, but you're writing novels, which means you're writing visually,
Yes.
which means you're thinking about scenery and objects, and the values which are connected to pleasure are coming through those objects. So you have a intellectual felt sense for orientation and pleasure that
Yeah.
shows up in your writing.
You said intellectual, but it's emotional too. It's like a rich emotional fabric that's woven
Yes,
throughout
yes.
the entire
My
piece.
when I said intellectual, I that was in reference to the fact that you're doing writing. Yes,
Right.
right.
Right. You do have to, I mean, you need to put those abstractions somewhere. I mean, they have
Yes.
to be put onto something. Um,
Your
yeah.
your 3-year-old point, by the way, three, nice, three.
Oh my God. Okay,
Right.
that was totally accidental.
No, I mean, no, that's organic intelligence.
It's
So,
deep. Yeah, it's
oh,
deep
yeah,
in
right,
me.
right. So, so, but yeah, right, right. Um, the that's now coming back at me more deeply. Like when you first said it, it was like, oh, that's interesting, but I wanted to say something, but now it's coming back at me. Yeah, it's like this rediscovery of how to be.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
just
I have And the reason I say that too is I have an almost 2-year-old now, and having her initially, I wanted children because I wanted them to help me slow down. And I thought that would do it. I mean, I totally try to find ways around the day where I can, read more and do more and work more. But in a way, fundamentally, each meal I have to slow down because I'm picking up and cleaning up after her. And I'm noticing, like many people who enjoy having children, especially, the Montessori teachers and stuff, they are seeing the world with fresh eyes. They are seeing, and people kind of know this generally, but they are experiencing what it means to crawl, walk, lift their head, use their body, use their mind, organize things, orient themselves to the world that they're in. I mean, I'm watching her go through tantrums now because reality isn't doing what she wants. She can't stack everything in her stroller without things falling out. It just reminds you that's exactly how I grew up. I can't remember it though. And I think that's so devastatingly sad that I can't remember the breastfeeding and I can't remember the foundation that I was given. And I can't remember like first understanding what the world is. I can't remember those scenes.
Hmm.
Um, but you kind of learn them again when you have children. And so it taught me like, oh my God, this is what I was going through. This is what I was feeling and seeing and touching and tasting and how new it all was. And you totally forget that, I feel like, when you're an adult and you remember things and you have your
Yeah.
crystallized
So
thoughts.
your 2-year-old is giving you outside opportunity, the insight from orienting to your 2-year-old, and all this stuff comes up that's relevant to your healing.
Yes. Oh, she feeds me. Yes.
Yes. That's orientation and outside
And it's
pleasure.
wonderful. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I think a lot of people, maybe that's something you can cling on to too. It's like mothers and fathers who are watching this happen. That's like where they're the most, I don't know, open maybe to that idea because they're being given this constant flood of like values that this tiny being is seeing in the simplest of things, not in shiny cars or gold.
Yes, there's your mothering is orientation and pleasure. You're orienting to your child. That's orientation and pleasure. Now it's beautiful. And
Yeah.
exactly.
And I'm
It's
hoping that it'll accelerate the healing too, because what I'm already feeling, like I just put out this book, but I feel like every 4 or 5 years, my well fills up again. Like I empty my bucket of everything I've been thinking and emotionally feeling, putting it into a book. And then I move on to the next section of my life. I'm not going to be one of those people who's putting out like books like every year or something like that. I can't work that fast. But I'm filling it up with these kinds of values and everything I'm watching. And right now, I feel like the anxiety character that's been through a lot of these books is starting to disappear, or I'm starting to focus on my daughter and not on that motivation by fear as much.
as orientation and pleasure deepen and deepen and deepen, you'll feel the anxiety more and more as energy. It
Mm,
won't have the unpleasantness. It'll just be energy. Oh, this is energy. And then as it deepens and deepens and deepens, this will be, oh, this is pleasant energy.
that's amazing. I
Yeah.
so want that.
Yeah.
I'm still working. I'm still working. And I think it takes time. I mean, for how long I was traumatized, it's going to take, I know just from regular therapy that it's going to take a long time to kind of leave it behind or grow.
I'm willing to buy that and grant that. Conceding it may take a long time. At the same time, I don't want to highlight one thing. When we were doing the earlier in this session, when you were orienting to me and feeling excitement, that happened immediately
Yes.
and it persisted. So even if, let's suppose it takes a long time, moments can happen immediately
Mm.
and be very, very beneficial immediately. That access to the pleasant letting go of control of orientation and pleasure. Because that was pleasureless. That was anxiety is unpleasant energy. And what you felt was pleasant energy in the brain area when you were orienting.
Yes.
So it's there. It's there. The baby is there to look at. The French fries are available whenever you want to drive there. It's the doorknob is there whenever you want to look at it. It's always there, latent.
That is so interesting. I'm writing down
Yeah.
unpleasant energy versus pleasant energy, which is such
Yes.
a different It's a different orientation, and I've never heard it before.
The one hope I have over time is that as people learn my content, they will see that my essentializing everything into orientation and pleasure is an integration of an enormous amount of complexity, as opposed to just some kind of lazy, superficial simplification. It is. And for many people, there's going to be a lot of resistance to this coming, and part of the resistance is many people think that many terms are important and must be used all the time, like nervous system, fight, flight, freeze, trauma, survival, threat, anxiety, depression, stress, dorsal vagal, ventral vagal, all this kind of
Yeah,
okay
I've heard them
context.
all. Yes.
But as you'll, it's orientation and pleasure. Yeah.
But it's amazing how much adults forget how they started. If you really do think you come out a clean slate, you don't know anything. You have maybe personalities, you have your temperaments, but you don't know anything. And so I feel like I've been surprised kind of in a way how similar all children are. They all start out at a pretty similar way. They all experience, they have to touch things. They have to realize something's hot, something's cold, something's high, something's low. I mean, they all have to go through those same processes and they're all very similar. Um, I mean, that's why there is a whole science of education because you can kind of talk about all children in that way because the way they gain knowledge is pretty similar.
There's some I'm interested in this the baby, the child, and they're being similar and exploratory, and the Montessori of just this is what's
Right.
interesting right now. I'm going to study this and play with this thing as long as
Yes.
I want to, and then it reached its pleasure threshold. I'll go, oh, I'm going to do this thing over
They
here,
have
and
no problems making those switches. They have their impulses are down to the floor, but they don't have that kind of problem. Whereas I will come up against, no, I can't. I've lived in this type of grind mentality, just like a
hmm.
CEO, my whole life, because that's how I dealt with my trauma is just bury your head and do the work and you go through it no matter how hard it is to find the answers. And now what I'm having to do is try and just like take a step back, let myself follow, what does feel good. I mean, I feel like I deserve it after, 30 something years of being alive.
Yes, hmm. I'm feeling like we could fade out now with some orientation. At the same time, if there are thoughts or questions that you'd be interested in talking about, I'm happy to do that too. I'm feeling like this, yeah, could be a fade out moment or a continuation moment, depending on your.
I wrote all these things
No, I'm
before
happy to continue. I'm
we
happy.
met, but
Yeah.
I also don't want to push your time. But this is like
No, this is good.
so
This is good. No,
exciting.
I'm happy to continue. I'm very happy to continue. It was just a moment of, oh, if you wanted to fade out, we could do orientation, but let's continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we kind of cover all the bases.
I'm happy to continue. I'm happy. This is
Okay, okay. Let's see. I think we covered that. We covered that. There's a
because
little bit of
I have a feeling this is a pivotal moment for me, for my process in introducing OI to objectivism.
okay. Well, we can go as soon as I
No, no,
make
no.
sure that
Wait,
we've
no.
talked about it.
Wait, I was saying I was supporting talking
Yes.
more. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay, okay.
Oh, I see what you thought. Okay.
Uh, so this is kind of more based off of what it centers back on romantic realism and kind of having that discussion because I think when you talked about romantic realism, it was interpreted a little differently than what I would
Yeah.
emphasize, I guess. Um, so I had, and it will definitely tie back in, but everybody always kind of says that reading teaches empathy, and many people need that. And I think there is something to also feeling that emotion in order to spread this kind of idea that it's I see the world and I want people to do better and be better. And it's this almost empathy, almost motherly feeling like, man, I just wish I could get you to understand this, like your organic intelligence. Like it's coming from a place of I want to help, And I think it's also because I'm a reader, and they say, you live 1,000 lives if you read widely, because you're getting somebody's unique perspective and you're getting inside of their head with every book. And that's why some people click with others and don't click with others.
Hmm.
So I just wanted to emphasize that writers are readers, and they have to be exposed to all these people. Otherwise, they'll come off trite, or they won't be coming from a place of empathy, or they won't have good thoughts. They won't have high thoughts, or they'll just, and then you can write commercial fiction, which is kind of just you read in the genre and you write what everyone else is writing. And that's why I feel like, with AI coming in, the AI is winning because it knows the next predictable word in the sentence,
Mm.
as opposed to somebody really trying to help another human being and explain life to them and help them through living, not just giving that thought process up to some higher divine being, or, because I fell in love with, and I love Ayn Rand's concept of hero worship. I fell in love with people, and people are, if anything, my divinity, not something up there that I can't see or that I've never felt, or all those divine experiences have happened to me with another person, with another valuer. And those are so few and far between, but they're there. Um, and I think reading really builds that kind of desire in a person. So reading is so important. Um, and again,
Yeah.
yeah, did you want to jump in?
Yes. Um, it was about orientation and pleasure. I know that sounds like it's beating a dead horse, but I really mean it. And I've already said I like that it's important to repeat, but I really mean it here. So you have a strong desire that that others understand what you think and feel for their benefit. You have that strong desire.
Yeah.
And orientation and pleasure, I'm serious, not just repeating for marketing purposes. This is more orientation and pleasure will be crucially instrumental here and helpful, because as your orientation and pleasure deepen and your capacity grows, you will organically be more attuned to other people. And that could take a explanation, but I'm just going to move forward. As you're attuned to other people, you know, it's not even know, it's like this felt sense of, how we're doing free association conversation with each other, like we're not highly calculating what we say to each other.
Correct.
You'll have more and more of that ability to relate to other people without calculation, and in a way that increases the chances of their getting you in some important way and getting what you're trying to communicate. And it will be because you'll just have a sense like, oh, I feel like saying this. I feel like saying this way. And this I don't feel like saying. Coming from orientation and pleasure, it is light years. It communicates what you want to communicate to other people and have them understand you intellectually and bodily in ways that are light years beyond standard communication skill tips, like use I statements or sandwich a criticism between two compliments or maintain eye contact or whatever, a thousand other strategies. Because the more you're coming from natural orientation and pleasure, the more you'll be able to orient other people and pick up what they're coming at you with less discomfort, because you have capacity to take in how they're coming at you. And the more you can take in how they're coming at you, the more your spontaneous ways of being will be attuned to that, to how they are in their moment, in their state, and more likely to have an effect positively on their understanding you and feeling what you want them to feel. So uh orientation and pleasure will help tremendously with being able to communicate to others what you want to communicate, and doing it more easily and pleasurably. Okay.
How is that different though from studying psychology and understanding people that way? Or like
So,
self-aware, growing your own self-awareness. How is that different from?
yes, studying psychology and growing in your self-awareness tends to be associated with conscious, efforted control in doing so.
Okay.
So I'm observing this person. I'm observing how they speak. I'm observing how they must be feeling. Okay, maybe I should talk a little bit slower. Maybe I should talk faster. Maybe I'll say this. Maybe I won't say this. It's consciously calculated. You can get results that way, but there's a lot. But
You were trying to
too
embody
much.
it.
There's too much to. Yeah, there's too much to calculate. There's too much to process consciously. It's like
Mm.
trying to read through conscious effort rather than automatically understanding the words, or play piano, get the notes all correct through conscious control of the fingers have to do it automatically. So so conscious the model of conscious control and effort processes much less information than the model of being able to be oriented and have a, I don't know, it's almost like I'm detouring here, like, hmm,
Where it
how,
feels
okay,
natural.
natural, yeah, I,
Mhm.
I'm trying to think, what do I want to say and how do I say it in a way that actually makes sense? Consciously calculating
You can feel that in the room.
really,
Like, I wish I
yeah,
had therapists who could do that because that's why I said I kind of need to know nowadays. I would ask them where you're politically, where you're religiously, because you can feel that tension sometimes. Like they might not say anything, but that you can tell that they're calculating, what do I say? What do I not say? And you can feel it. It doesn't come naturally. I don't know if that's what you're getting at.
okay, yeah, good. Let me give you okay. I think an example will help. My example is a good one, so I hope I can theorize about it well after the example. The example itself is important. So I'm in session with a client, and he's talking about how he went to the supermarket, um, and I asked, "What did you buy?" Okay, now
Mhm.
how did okay, it's so complicated. I asked what he bought at the supermarket, okay,
Yeah.
which led to a profound unfolding. Now, um, which I'll just ask you and the audience to assume that that's true. That whatever that because I asked that and because of the answer, it just led to this profound unfolding of orientation and pleasure and life progress. But how did I know to ask that? I don't know. What made me ask that? I don't know. Was I doing some calculation that led to the question, what did you buy at the supermarket? No, I wasn't. He was just saying how he went to the supermarket. And it was just an immediate, what'd you buy? Now, it could have been a nothing burger. Sorry, my saying, what did you buy could have been nothing. It could have been, oh, I bought this thing,
Coincidental.
and then
Yeah.
he moved on to, oh, and then but my real thing is I'm stressed at work because blah 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 blah. But I asked, what did you buy? And it led to the unfolding. Now, from an organic intelligence perspective, a plausible explanation is that I'm attuned to him and I'm attuned to how I'm feeling and what's going on in my organism because I'm able to be oriented to him, and my orientation means intensity is not too high in myself. So I'm able to feel more of what's going on in my body, in my thinking, in my feeling, in my images. I'm able to monitor it more because it's not too intense while maintaining orientation to him and what his face looks like and how he's talking and maybe how he said the supermarket or something. And I just asked what, and so that kind of led to just asking, blurting out, where did you buy the supermarket? And
Yeah.
had I not asked that, had I missed, and had I not asked at the time, I may have missed, it may not have led to what happened. So
It's
that's
like,
what I mean by, sorry, that when
yeah.
you ask what, how does orientation and pleasure lead to greater relational bonding and unlocking greater benefits than mainstream, like study psychology, study behavioral psychology, study these tips and tricks, use conscious calculation. That's an example. Like I would, my asking, what'd you get at the supermarket? I don't know how I would. There's no way I could recreate how I could have come to that question at that time.
It's kind of like
Okay.
turning all of your senses on and orienting them to reality, so much so that you come up with a question, not that it's like that's the only question you could have asked, but such a question that it's like the right question. It's the outcome is going to be positive. It's like you're putting yourself in the healthiest
Yes.
possible spot to ask
Yes.
the right question.
Yes. And it worked.
Yes.
And had it been a nothing thing, that's also fine. But I'm trying to off that example because it's an example that indicates. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I'm sorry. But it's a good example to show how orientation and pleasure can lead to that totally unpredictable thing that you do that potentiates that totally unpredictable thing afterward.
Yeah,
And
I'm following. I'm
and
tracking.
no way through conscious calculation, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That is also super interesting.
Right. So a lot of what I'm doing is like there was a moment like the client was looking at some keys, and I thought, "Oh, maybe I'll just not. Maybe I'll just because I was interested in something else." But then, okay, look at the keys. Let's just, and then that potentiated the enormous insight by looking at a keychain. So really following these impulses towards orientation and pleasure. So,
I feel like a critic would be like, well, how is that not, I don't know if this is the right term, but Freudian in a sense that you're just coming up with a story about the keys and not necessarily following something that actually can change your life.
um, because if you do orientation and pleasure, you see the results. If you don't do orientation and pleasure, you see the results of that, and the results are very different. And that's
Uh-huh.
assumed background context. So I'm
Yeah.
not doing anything like, oh, what's the winning lottery number? Okay, well, let me ask Zeus. Okay, he gave me these numbers. I gave them to Kaitlyn. Kaitlyn got that lottery ticket, that number, and then she won $1 million. Therefore, I must have access to Zeus. No, it's not mystical. It's because there's an
Yeah,
assumption of
right.
the rational validation of orientation and pleasure.
But I feel like that is so, and this is the trouble I have with finding an audience too. I mean, I'm not a bestseller and I don't make millions of dollars yet. But it's so hard to find people who are that attuned to themselves and that kind of level of detail of knowing, again, knowing which path to take. And that's why it's just so hard to find that audience. It's hard to find those people.
I relate to you very much. It's very hard to find people who can understand you, are interested in understanding you, and benefit themselves from understanding you and
Yeah.
feel a bond. And one way I've done my online content is my priority is to present who I am and what I think fully, as clearly as possible, in as organized a way as possible within the limits of time and energy to increase the chances of me of connecting with people who will connect with me. You're being an example of such a person. And
Yeah.
I in this process, I have followed my orientation and pleasure and have ignored a lot of advice from a lot of people I trust about how to do my how to run my channel. Like you have to show more emotion, you have to smile more. Why are you wearing just a t-shirt? Why is it just a white wall with an Atlas Shrugged poster? I mean, here's the content you should do. Your content is too intellectual. And I don't care about any of that because, or it's not, it's that
Well, that's not
I'm
your
following
audience.
orientation and pleasure. I mean, so it's not, don't talk about Ayn Rand, everyone will hate you. Yeah, I mean, obviously I know that. I mean, that's not news.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not, it's, so orientation and pleasure allows you to Spoiler alert for people who have not read The Fountainhead. So if you have not and you don't want to be spoiled, then pause for maybe 1 minute or 2 minutes. How do you get to a point where you're like Howard Rourke, where you'll lose money on a commission because you'll pay the guy to make so you can make the house what you want it to be, and it doesn't cost him, or you'll create a building that you don't get credit for, that you might go to jail for, with zero status? How do you get to that point? You have to be really stable in orientation and pleasure and pursuing your own
Mhm.
self-interest and not being deviated by other people's opinions. How do you do that? That is orientation and pleasure, orientation and pleasure, orientation and pleasure. Okay.
For me, it's like I've had even my own brother was like, you'd make a lot of money just like writing erotica or something.
Mm.
You'd make a lot of money writing to market. And for me, that's what's the point then? There's no point in me pursuing writing if it's not what I want to say. Or I've even with my job, like I chose my bread and butter right now is proofreading, and I proofread mostly for court reporters. So I'm reading deposition transcripts all day long and putting in, the periods and the commas where they're supposed to go. And I chose that because I didn't want to be an editor because I feel like I'd critique everything because they're not coming from my sense of life or my orientation. And I didn't want to be a writer for like a newspaper or a magazine because that is when writing becomes painful to me. Like writing, people say, well, writing book, wow, that must be really hard. But for me, it is like keeping a diary. It's the words flow out. It doesn't cause me agony or pain when I do it. It's pleasurable. And that is why I'm pursuing it. That's why I'm on the fifth book. I would not have done
Yes.
multiple books if I was suffering, every time I do it. I wouldn't do it then. I wouldn't pick up a pen again, or a pencil or whatever, a laptop. Um, so I think that's super important.
That's how my content got developed, through orientation and pleasure. And
Mm.
yes, there are, if you read my content, there's a lot of grammatical problems and typos, but because at some point I
Don't
thought,
worry.
because I don't no, but it wasn't a shame on part. It was just that because I'm prioritizing pleasure, like, okay, this is good enough. I'm just going to post this because I have to do other things. But it grew out of orientation and pleasure.
Mm.
And that is also finding a pleasurable way to pursue your values. One benefit is that it's pleasurable rather than painful. That's super clear benefit. Another benefit is that it increases the chances that those values are the right ones to pursue. So when people say you got to do what's uncomfortable, they sail close to a danger zone of, we're just going to originally assume your values are the right ones to pursue, and so however you get there is however you get there, and you have to do that. But
Uh-huh.
no. I mean, it matters how much pleasure you have along the way. So
Yes,
the process, the pleasure of the process is crucial.
absolutely. Yeah.
And let me add that orientation is important. Uh, this is important. Well, I think almost everything I say is important, but orientation is
Fair.
important for being able to know what pleasure feels like. Okay, let me just repeat that. Orientation is important. Orientation is crucially important for being able to know what pleasure feels like. Okay.
Unpack that.
Many people, yeah, I will. Many
Okay.
people, so according to organic intelligence, they think that their normal way of being is what comfort is. They associate that with comfort.
Hmm.
So any feeling worse would be discomfort, but their normal way of being is comfort, which is no. So many people are by nature preoccupied with thoughts or unpleasant thoughts, unpleasant intensity, and that's just the norm. It's like a background noise, like chronic low back pain. That's just normal. And so they think that's comfort. I'm comfortable. I'm fine. I'm comfortable. When in fact they're not. And then they associate pleasure with high intensity pleasure that's co-occurrent with their base level of discomfort. Yeah, there's pleasure, but it's not a pure pleasure because their base is always dogged by discomfort. So the experience of orientation, where intensity lowers and is not uncomfortable, and you're able to connect easily to the environment, is crucial for knowing what it feels like to be comfortable. Oh, this is what it's like to feel comfortable. Oh, it's like when people go on vacation, they realize, oh, I didn't know how stressed I was, or something. Or when the roommate finally leaves, I didn't know how stressed I was around that roommate. I feel so much lighter, but I didn't know I felt not light until they left, and then I felt light. So likewise, if you're disoriented, if you have no, everyone has some level of orientation on board. That's why they can walk around without running into walls. But if your orientation is compromised, that means there's a lot of intensity that you're preoccupied with all the time. And you may associate that with your normal comfort. And because everyone's like that, they just think that's now normal and comfortable because they're interacting. Well, yeah, I'm comfortable. You're comfortable. We're all comfortable. When they're all not, they're all preoccupied.
Yes,
So,
I have a personal experience with that
yes.
because I, when I had to basically see somebody in college, because I was just losing it with all the Marxism and stuff like that, I was given Lexapro. And for me, that quieted everything. And I was like, is this normal? Is this what like normal people feel like? Because I was having that trauma experience since, 7, and you're just kind of coming online with like memory and things like that. And it just seemed normal. Like the constant anxiety chatter just felt normal. And that's exactly I experienced that. And I will say, being frank, I'm still on medication and I still need therapy every once in a while. And that's why I'm still searching, and something like organic intelligence might very well help me not need. I don't know. Again, now I don't know what you'd say about this, but how much is it chemical versus environment, or is it both? Or, will I always need medication? I'm not really sure. Um, but it did definitely, I needed something to like convince me that, oh, that's not a norm what you're experiencing.
Yeah. My answer is I don't know to a bunch of the questions like what's environmental, what's this, what's that. I mean,
Yeah.
who knows? But or that was a little bit cavalier, but breezy. But that was a bit glib. But let me just move on. That
Yeah.
that either way, the point is more orientation and pleasure. Um, and yes,
Okay.
so being able to be oriented is important for knowing what comfort feels like, and for establishing being able to feel pleasure that doesn't feel like pain relief or pain prevention, being able to feel a pure persisting pleasure.
Hmm.
A lot of people, including objectivists, talk about when they give advice for living, they they often don't talk about what is your baseline feeling, your baseline mood. Gene Moroney sometimes talks about this, where it's saying like if you're uncomfortable, you can't think, so you gotta get comfortable. Hygiene. So I like that, but that's good. But there needs to be more focus on what's your baseline uh uh state from which you approach life.
How do you know that though?
Sure, right. So you know that by assessing the degree of orientation. If your attention is able to connect to the environment, like when you were looking at me and feeling some, if your attention is able to easily connect to the environment, that means the internal intensity is not hijacking your attention.
Is it focus, or is there a slight difference between that term?
So nice. Uh, for people who are getting to my content, there are 6 features of orientation that I cover under the acronym SWAV, and that's the thing. But one of them is unfixed. The U in SWAV stands for in my old content, I say unfocused, but in the book I'm writing, I'm updating it to unfixed. There's a lot, but meaning that, so if you're in a room and the person you're in love with is in the room and you can't stop looking at them, that's not the model example of orientation. The model example would be your eyes could go to the person you have a crush on or in love with. They could also go to the trash can in the corner. It may be it may be a little bit unpleasant to look at the trash can and more pleasant or more unpleasant to look at the person you're in love with, but it's unfixed. So it could kind of roam.
Okay. So nothing is sticky. I've always come back to that term.
Yeah. Uh, or if it is, let's say you're looking at the trash can, but the quality with which you look at it, even if you're fixed on the trash can in the sense of your eyes remain there for a protracted period of time. It's still relaxed, and you can, oh, it's kind of gray, and there are lines there, and there's still a fluid kind of relaxed quality to the looking, even if the looking is at the same objects.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know where we were tying that
Right.
in,
Yeah,
but
I don't know. It's all over yeah, right.
it is all over the place.
But we can go back if you had further on the on your list.
Let me see. Okay.
Yeah.
Reading intent is different. Not all need it to breathe. I'm not sure what that was even about. Oh, again, uh, that adults just can't turn off their rational mind when they're reading. That I think reading involves mental and even physical. If you're reading out loud or you're pacing the room while you're reading, there is something that's using your entire body, your entire focus. And I feel like that could give you breathing room too, because you get into the story by using your mind. You're imagining the place, or you're really focusing on what that character is saying, and you're envisioning how they're saying it. And it's not something you just, I don't know. I don't even know how you would like, subjectively just feel it. You just feel it out. You just close your eyes and like go on vacation or something. That's just not how I am. It's not how I'm reading. And I think I
Yeah.
passed a certain stage, like when I was, 0 to 10 and learning to read. And I found like a lot of those commercial books, like going into a library or Barnes and Noble, like every little piece of reading was candy because I was still learning how to read and I was still interested in the stories. And then something flipped when, I was approaching all this trauma and tragedy where I needed the stories to mean something to help me show me how to live. And that's what I was searching for. I wasn't searching anymore for this is a really cool story. It has dragons in it, like all people talk about, and it has like romance, or I didn't care about that. I cared about how can I live my life? And that's there's a different intent from the reader's point of view in searching for good books that way, which I don't feel like it gets talked about a lot. And I feel like somebody like Rand, who has like, I have this very deep philosophical whole system within my books that is very important for you to understand, and it's entertaining, but it is feeding what I really needed to feed. So I feel like there is that kind of audience out there, but I don't know where they are exactly.
I don't know how relevant what I'm about to say is to what you said, but
Okay.
but it feels very resonant. So
Okay.
Rand's writing is associated with being super rational, intellectual, logical, clear, and demanding on the reader. And contrast that against other people who write in a more loose mood vibe, loosey, fluid kind of way. And then many people think, well, Rand is more demanding of my intellect, and then the other books are I can be more relaxed and drifty when I read them and just kind of like I'm smoking pot and watching the Nature Channel or something. I want to I had a different experience. When I read Ayn Rand, it's easier because it's interesting, it's enjoyable. I'm into it. So processing what's happening is easier because it's enjoyable. When I read certain passages of Dostoevsky or Hugo or Moby Dick, it's like this is really demanding because I this is boring. I don't know what is going on. This sentence is like a page long. I there's like 20 semicolons. I'm not so the so, I'm not sure what my main point is. Sorry if it's not connecting directly to what you're saying, but the idea that you're saying, okay, I think one thing you're saying is reading and enjoying reading is not just this passive thing, it's active. And I'm saying yes, and can be effortless and pleasurable if it's effortless and pleasurable. It can be effortless and if it's pleasurable, whereas reading something that's where the author is intending you to be in this zoned out state, that can be really demanding because it's so unpleasant and boring. And to figure out what a sentence is saying because it's so vague, that requires extra work because it's unpleasant. Uh,
I think there are two things there. I
yeah, yeah,
think
okay,
you're
okay.
having like the specific language itself is more challenging, I find, when I'm reading those books like Wuthering Heights and stuff.
Mm,
Versus Ayn Rand's is very, and she had to be very clear and precise because she's dealing with philosophy within literature. And so it was easier for me. And that's why I got lost in it. For me, I got lost in it, and that made it entertaining. So
mm.
that's why I don't think entertainment is bad, but that's not my audience necessarily. I don't want someone, it's not a beach read. Like my books are not happy really usually. And they're not beach reads. And I
Okay.
don't think there's a place for that, just like there is with, junk food TV versus like a film, an art film that somebody put a lot of time and effort into. And then you have, of course, like the postmodernists versus like objectivists, which, one is then terrible to you and the other one is great art. So there's that debate too. So there's that level, but then there's also, yeah, I mean, it's harder
Mm.
too
How
because
about,
it's time wise, it's different. I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying, but I feel like there are multiple reasons why one is easier than the other.
okay. Can I raise something?
Yes.
This is, I think I have some things to say about what reasoning is exactly. What exactly is reasoning? What exactly is thinking?
Okay.
And m- uh, from some objectivists would say, uh, okay, you're trying to figure out if you're gonna ask a girl out for a second date, or you're trying to figure out if you're gonna buy a certain house or not.
Hmm.
And sometimes you'll think about it for a little bit, take a break, do something else. Okay, you're gonna think about it a little bit more, take a break, do something else, think about it a little bit more, take a break, do something else. And so those periods of thinking, they would call that's the reasoning part, that's the thinking part. And then when you stop thinking for a moment about whether to buy the house, whether to ask, or you're doing other stuff in life, you're doing other stuff in life. That's not thinking. If you're like watching, if you're just chilling out, orienting, eating lasagna, that's not thinking. Yes, I agree. I agree in a sense of in a certain sense of reasoning and thinking. I agree with that standard picture. And at the same time, I think there's a sense in which the whole thing is reasoning and thinking. And
Yes.
that it's not good to be so sharp in saying, well, I was thinking here, but I was resting here, and I was thinking here, but I was resting here. Reason, I'm following Ayn Rand's definition, is identifying and integrating the material provided by the senses and including introspective data.
Hmm.
And that is happening all the time,
So you
including
have
when
a
you're
subconscious.
including when you're drifting and checked out,
Yes.
like, do I buy this house? Do I move to New York and buy this house, or do I not? I'll think about it for half an hour, then I'll do something else. But then an insight comes, like all these eureka moments in
Yes.
all those movies, right? And oh, or you're you're hanging out with the girl and you're enjoying her company and you're laughing at her joke. You're getting data. That's pleasure. You're not you're not reasoning, but the pleasure is data that you're integrating that into your experience. So this idea that reason and thinking, I use those synonymously here, are these very sharply delineated activities typified by thought being the primary object and chains of reasoning between thoughts. That picture of reason thinking has a place. At the same time, reason is the faculty of that identifies and integrates the material provided by the senses, including introspective data, for the purpose of living and pursuing your happiness. For the purpose of living and pursuing your happiness. That's objectivism. And I think that's just straight up truth and glorious truth. And resting and eating lasagna and taking a break and orienting while with friends, all that can be part of reasoning because that is the process of identifying and integrating the material provided by the senses. And I think that, by the way, to the audience, Kaitlyn is nodding, so that means she's agreeing. So,
Yes.
and from an organic intelligence perspective, orientation and pleasure are part of the story here about they are part of reasoning.
Even when, and I've heard that when you're sleeping and you have nightmares or you have dreams that you remember, that's your brain figuring out a problem. At least that's what neuroscientists are thinking. That's why
So
you come up with these.
I think that the reasoning is embodied, and and by the way, Lee Pearson, hi Lee. I and Lee does a lot of he'll talk about reasoning and thinking for a long time, and it's very mental, and then he'll have one sentence saying, well, it's also embodied, but then he'll move on from that point after one sentence giving to that.
I
But
think that's common.
yeah, right. So let me just cover my base by saying, yeah, it's embodied, but I'm just going to focus on the mental. But it's whole organismic, and it's I'm arguing for the fundamentality of orientation and pleasure to reasoning, to rationality, to thinking, to objectivity, to rational action. Rand says the fundamental sensations are pleasure and pain. The two fundamental sensations are pleasure and pain, pleasure indicating the right course of action. So if you want to think about rationality, especially in regard to pursuing your happiness, which you should be because that's objectivism, rationality for the sake of happiness, you got to be thinking about orientation and pleasure.
Yeah, you just have like an explosion there. You got to write that all down.
No,
Yeah,
it's written down somewhere in my,
good, good. Yeah, and I was trying to tie this in my head to back to how that ties into romantic realism.
yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Um, but I think because there's that free will, she says free will and values and showing life as it could be and ought to be. And I think that ought is the most important part for her is showing this is what it could be. And that's what I feel like I'm still working toward. Yes, I consider myself an objectivist, but I wouldn't say that I'm at this ideal peak yet. I'm still recovering from that trauma. And that's why I recently rewrote a bio, but I consider my literary mother Ayn Rand and my literary father Dostoevsky because I am at this like this seeing reality, being outside, being among other people who aren't valuers, and it brings me to this dark place, including all the trauma. And I'm trying to go to this Ayn Rand's world and her romantic realism, and I try to put all those values, collect all the values I see through the day into the narrative, into these fictionalized scrapbooks, and keep them and maintain them and cherish them, even with the dark parts in there. And on this journey to try and better myself and to try and get more relief and more happiness in my life. And it's still, I feel like a lot of objectivists like either say they're there or they're so or I know I've discussed this with other people in the objectivist world that say, well, it's not like your hands are out and you're joyfully shouting and, life is just so wonderful. That's not what happiness looks like to me. It's not realistic to me because I think a lot of people are touched by trauma at some point in their lives. And we all have anxiety and we all have these things. It's just what is the degree and what is your baseline? What are you working with? And how can you make it better? How can you get better? And when you do get there, it's not a throw your hands up in the air and you feel ecstasy. It's you have all of this integrated knowledge. It's all contextual. And that might lead to a smirk or a smile and maybe a laugh, but it's nothing exuberant. And I feel like it's false when they start going into that. It's just this, like you're on drugs.
It's an addiction to intensity as opposed to being able to feel pleasure within orientation.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like this outside where you want to be inside. I
Yeah,
don't know. Yes.
As orientation deepens, the symptoms of trauma fade and appear less and are triggered less frequently and intensely by orientation objects. So, for example, looking at a fat, ugly person is less pleasant than looking at a thin, hot person.
Yeah.
For many people, for some people who hate good-looking people and who worship, depending on your values, but
Yes, sure.
but at the same time, or looking at the house that Keating made for Lois Cook is unpleasant compared to looking at the Enright house. It's at Rourke's Enright house, depending on your values. But um, with increasing orientation, there's more of a neutral awareness of the environment. You can look at the unattractive person, you can look at the ugly house with more neutrality, it's less triggering and and because you have less trauma symptoms, it's less it triggers that less. It doesn't mean that you have the same reaction to looking at the Cook house versus the Enright house. And it shouldn't mean that. I mean, you'll enjoy, I'm just going to stipulate, you enjoy looking at the Rourke buildings more than the Keating buildings, the ones that weren't made by Rourke.
Mhm.
But fundamentally, you're stable in orientation and pleasure. So that when you're looking at the ugly house or the ugly person or the trash can that's overflowing, you're not transported to Czechoslovakia and all this other thing. It's just there's more of a neutral base in looking at the trash can. It's still less.
Man, yeah, if I could get to that state,
Yeah, yeah,
I would be so happy.
yeah. Well, orientation and pleasure, yeah, would be
Yeah.
my yeah, right, which is my yeah.
Because I still do have very visceral reactions to my environment.
So in that case, the you want to orient where it's pleasant and neutral. So as you go to the
Okay.
supermarket, the fat ugly people, okay, can you look at the avocado? What about the
Yeah.
celery? I
Yes,
mean,
I
it's
would
just
feel very neutral there. Yes.
you go where it's easy, where orientation is less displeasurable. Like and then you can and then when you're curious, oh, what if I could look at the radish and then look at the whatever.
So, but isn't that different from like if you have that phobia and you're treating the phobia, you're supposed to like, you're afraid of spiders. You're supposed to go and touch the spider and go toward the discomfort. So you are emphasizing something completely
Yeah,
different, I
okay.
think.
Yeah, yeah, because right, because if we were doing a session and you talked about your fear of spiders, and then you said, yeah, the spiders, like I saw a spider today, Bach, and I just came back from the supermarket and I said, what'd you buy? And then you said, oh, I bought this juice. And then you start why, and then oh yeah, the juice had ginger and turmeric. Yeah, I don't really like turmeric, but it's kind of nasty. But you know what? Maybe I do like turmeric. It's kind of nasty, but maybe it's not that nasty because I kind of like how the taste of the turmeric in the juice shot. Yeah. And then you find that the next day when you see a spider, to your surprise, you don't feel fear. Something happened in your organism. Some orientation and pleasure got landed when you talked about the juice you bought at the supermarket that had turmeric in it. How does that relate to spiders? I don't. I mean, in some sense of the question, I don't know. I have no idea. But the point is that this is another principle in organic intelligence that the the answer is often in. I think, or oh, I might say always, but I'll just be more conservative and say often. The answer is often in the associations that come up when you're talking about the thing, especially associations that are more in the direction of orientation and pleasure. So you're going to talk about your fear of spiders, and then you decide, and then in your free association, you're not consciously calculating everything you're saying.
Right.
You mentioned to me that you went to the supermarket earlier that day. So that was in the associative network. That was connected in some way to spiders. It's connected in the sense that it's in your psyche, it's in the associations. You
Okay. Yeah.
mentioned that, so that may be your biology delivering the signal of orientation and pleasure, and then I amplify supermarket. What'd you buy? And then we went there. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
But that's not avoidance. Because I
If
feel like most
okay,
therapists are like, look at it, like just
so
look at the
yeah,
bug.
if it's avoidance, organic intelligence says avoidance is good. It's awesome. Do it more. Enjoy it. Get as much pleasure as you can from avoidance. And the people who are advocating not avoiding are exacting psychological harm on people. That's unethical, unnecessary, and light years behind orientation and pleasure.
That is shocking to me because I feel like I'm doing psychology all wrong
You
if I
are.
call it that. Yeah.
No, I mean, that's yes. I mean, the laws.
Like if I'm a good girl and I like do what the therapist says and they're telling me, I feel I come out of these sessions and that's why I stop. I go on and off because I don't feel better. I'm not feeling better. I'm having to dwell in these feelings, think about the thing, that makes me feel pain over and over and over. And they think that that's going to desensitize you. And I mean, like I said, in that one very specific CBT example, talking about it over and over and over until you're just bored with it did seem to do something. But could I have gotten to that in a pleasurable, more easily attainable way?
Yes. Not only is it more efficient,
No, don't tell me that.
not only is it more efficient and pleasurable to do it through orientation and pleasure, but you're moving beyond just symptom reduction. You're moving to capacity growth, increasing your capacity through orientation and pleasure, which is much stronger than just symptom reduction. And in the case where you are desensitized to something through the discomfort, pain, exposure protocols,
Mhm.
often what's happening there is a shutting down of access to feeling, not an increase in pleasure. Shutting down access to feeling shuts down pleasure and pain. It's much better to increase access to pleasure than to shut down feeling. And if you call shutting, so it may be actually a devolved state to be desensitized because you're getting more away from access to pleasure because you're getting more away from feeling. What you want to do is get more pleasure by focusing on pleasure and by focusing on orientation. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that is, you just basically flipped all of the common therapy on its head. Like the
Yes.
common, like if I go into anybody, it's not, it's going to be the opposite, basically.
Yes. And all the objectivists, including in the somatic world, they're saying discomfort, you gotta be uncomfortable, you gotta be uncomfortable, you gotta be uncomfortable. Here, I'm a professor at a university, I'm writing a book on discomfort. Here are my research studies that show that discomfort is good. No, no, no.
Wow. Fuck, we need like a million of you though to help
Well, I
everybody.
I'm thankful for this conversation because it's so it makes sense though. It sounds like this stuff is making sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, how I can implement it all the time, well, uh, I have to work on it. I feel like,
Well, you gave some examples, your doorknob,
yes, or at least notice it.
forehead. You said avocados are cool to look at, or at least neutral to look at.
Cool.
So you
Neutral,
have
yeah.
you have examples, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I so I guess I'm already on this kind of process of trying to get it all into writing and look at it and feel better and soothe myself. So I maybe have just been organically like
Yes.
on this path.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I've but again, like with Ayn Rand too, like I was also on that path just because of my father and his orientation like toward uh conservative values and being against communism. I was already leading, I wasn't coming at this as a Marxist. Um, so I was already on that path, but she helped explain to me cognitively, okay, this is what you're doing, and this is a good thing, and this is how you do it, and this is how you do more of it. And I feel like your process would help people be like, oh, that's what this is, identify it, and then continue to do that.
Yes. And to my objectivist to the objectivists and to adjacent people like free market people, an argument I'm developing, one consideration in favor of OI process. You guys already support ease, efficiency, and pleasure. You advocate getting away from primitive, horrifying lifestyles where you die before 30 from disease XYZ, or you're enslaved, or you're killed by the chief or whatever, or you're raped in your village because that's what women are because women in tribes have to be raped, blah blah blah. You advocate moving towards capitalism where life is 1,000 billion times easier, more comfortable, more convenient, more luxurious, eliminating pain points. So you already buy the essence of organic intelligence in the realm of politics and economics and wide-scale societal change. So that's which is like 99.999% of the living. So I'm just fighting over the 0.001% of the residue, saying be logically consistent in the 0.001% of the remainder, and that's orientation and pleasure. You already advocate ease and effortlessness and efficiency in regard to society, in regard to technological improvement. The more comfortable the chair, the better. The more comfortable the bed, the better. You already are against all the people who say no, discomfort is good, suffering is good, killing feels good, Stalin good, sacrifice good, death good, killing Jews good, killing ourselves good, kill everything good. I mean, you're already in favor of life and ease. Organic intelligence is like the final integration of that, just the
I don't
residue.
know that I'd minimize it though to residue because that's part of what makes you want to live. I mean, that part of the art, or if you want to think of her, 4 or 5 pillars of objectivism, that is still such a crucial part of.
Oh,
I don't
sorry.
know if that's exactly what you
So,
meant
okay,
by that.
no, thank you. By residue, I
Okay.
didn't mean that what I'm saying is not important. I'm saying that no, my advocacy of orientation and pleasure, I think, is profoundly important for living. Profoundly important in part because people are deficient in knowing about it and practicing it. So
Yes.
it's profoundly important. I'm trying to sell a crucial value. The residue point is in context of an appeal to the wider context of being pro-capitalist, where you already support from cave to skyscraper to spaceship to luxury. That already makes your life 1,000 times better, more effortlessly. In relation to that, it's residue. It's the remainder. So what I'm trying to say is, what makes life so easy? 99.999% of it is capitalism. The remainder is real now, but you can take it for granted. So it's not even on the radar. It's just, yeah, my microwave is there. I can make a burrito in a minute. I'm not fighting malaria. I'm not in danger of being killed by a wild by mosquitoes because so I have walls that protect me. That's just taken for granted. So it's not even on the radar of consciousness. It's just, that's good. What is on the radar of consciousness is I'm uncomfortable. I have anxiety. I have trauma. I have to do my self-regulation stuff. The, it's residue compared to the capitalism stuff but within life, it's everything. So orientation and pleasure are everything in the radar of your conscious concern. If we take a wider context into things that you take for granted, it's residue. It's remaining. Residue may be overly derogatory towards myself, but it's not. What I'm trying to say is,
Because you could still have all those things and be
okay.
unhappy. And if you don't recognize that
Oh
you
yes,
are
yes,
allowed
yeah.
to have and pursue pleasure, I think that's damning. And I think that's the really heavy lifting you'll have to do because we accept so many Judeo-Christian values. And one of them is pleasure is not really what you should be going for. That's not what you should be thinking. You should be grinding all your gears. You should be working. That's the
Yeah.
capitalist ways. And I don't know if you know, are you familiar with Brian Johnson and his like
Say more.
longevity protocols and stuff?
I know about the long. I don't know all the names of the people, but keep going. Keep going.
Okay, so he's like he made a lot of money off of oh Kernel, like the thinking cap. I don't know, but he made a lot of money, and now he's spending all of his millions on creating and outlining a protocol he calls the Blueprint Project and extending his lifespan. Now he thinks he could be immortal. I don't know about that yet, but he is improving and testing all of his bodily systems and trying to kind of maintain or back what's the word I want?
Mm.
All of your organs have like a biological age and he's trying to minimize that down to 18 or he's almost like 50. And anyway, I took an interest in him because he is trying to optimize everything in his life and I have a feeling he's going toward he said he's never been happier in his life. And people are like that sounds terrible to get up at 5:30 in the morning to work out, to eat healthy, he stops eating very early because he thinks that that's good, before you go to bed, all your systems are kind of resetting. Um, and all these different things that he is scientifically looking at. And they are becoming effortless to him, and he is feeling optimally at his best. And I think there's something there that is really important and something he left his Mormon religion, something that he's allowing himself to do is finally give himself to that pleasure, find out what his body needs to continue to live and even to reduce his biological age. So especially in this time of AI and stuff, I think longevity is going to be super important as a topic, expanding life in terms
Mm.
of, if we live in this capitalist system, we're going to be extending life longer and longer. And there are people who are saying, well, why would I want to live longer? And it's that residue part that you're talking about that's so important.
Right. Yeah. So Yes. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Pleasure is important. Increasing capacity for pleasure is important. And the process of doing so should be pleasurable. And part of that, um, part of the process of pleasure increase being pleasurable means that we should not pressure people to be positive. For many people, being negative feels better than being positive. If they were to try to be positive, it would feel worse. For such people in such contexts, oh, I would say be negative. It's like the whole motivation by fear versus motivation by love. Be negative because relative to the contrary, that's what feels better. So if this is getting into like, okay, this is opening a can of worms, but if you feel better thinking and doom scrolling and the world is ending and everyone's being killed and war and everywhere and torment, the world is ending. If that makes you feel better to dig into that stuff and to live in that stuff, than to look at good things happening, or orientation and pleasure would counsel digging into the doom scrolling because that's what feels better, and trying to find pleasure in that, and especially orientation, instead of following standard positive psychology protocols. So this is interesting. Okay, so
Hmm.
okay, I'm appreciating you a lot because it's helping me lay out a bunch of stuff here. So much mainstream therapy says go to what's painful, right? Go to what's wrong, go to what's painful, be uncomfortable, expose yourself. Now, the positive psychology wing of 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 mainstream therapy would say the opposite. No, that keeps you stuck in negativity. Focus on what's good, what's positive, what's pleasant, what's going well. Focus on your strengths. From an organic intelligence perspective, both are keeping intensity unpleasantly high. Both focusing on what's wrong keeps unpleasant intensity high for people who don't want to do that, for people for whom it's unpleasant, and both trying to be positive and focus on being positive when that's unpleasant is keeping intensity too high. You want to focus on what's actually pleasurable, what's actually relieving of suffering, whether that's focusing on negative content or positive content, whether that's reading negative news or positive news. I know some objectivists would question the distinction between the two, but I think it's clear enough in context. So what actually feels better is the target, not specifically trying to avoid what's negative or focus on what's positive. What's positive or negative, when that's understood as distinct from what's pleasurable versus displeasurable, is not fundamental. The fundamental is pleasure versus displeasure, and the fundamental underneath that is orientation. Because if you're stuck doom scrolling and being in negativity, yes, do that as opposed to trying to be positive because that's what feels better. At the same time, the way out of that is to feel the pleasure in the doom scrolling to reduce intensity, which increases the chances you'll be able to orient. And when you can orient, do that. Look at the avocado, look at the doorknob, look at the trash can, get moments of orientation in. That's what lowers intensity. And as orientation stabilizes, that you can then start feeling more pleasure, which increases the chances that you'll eventually be able to be positive pleasurably, not displeasurably. So if your norm is, I have a date with a girl, but I know she's going to reject me. I'm too short. I'm too ugly. She's going to reject me. 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 And then your friend is saying, "No, dude, be positive. She's going to love you.
I
You're
don't believe
funny."
that.
No, because it's more pleasurable to be in your negativity than to try to focus on being positive. So stay in the negativity, but try to enjoy it and try to orient while you're doing it, so that you can stabilize orientation, so that at some point you'll be able to think, I have some positive qualities, and where you'll be able to feel pleasure rather than go back into shame and no, I'm not desirable. Okay.
Okay, I'm trying to
Yeah.
concretize this in my head. because I don't know what exactly, if you're in that situation, are you trying to remember, okay, I remembered this plant on the doorstep as I was thinking about that. Are you supposed to go back and look at that stuff, or are you just supposed to orient at the time you're thinking to
Oh,
that? I'm missing that
yeah.
connection.
If you can, you ignore your therapist and you look out the window. And your therapist accuses you of avoiding, and you just keep looking out the window. If you can do that,
Yeah.
that's major chops, because you can, if you can ignore your therapist who's telling you you're avoiding and just look at the window. But that's I'm certain. I mean orientation. I mean, you're having negative thoughts. If you can do orientation instead of trying to do whatever else, deep breathing,
Yeah.
saying positive things, or just, I mean, do whatever's pleasant and orienting. That's always the goal.
Hmm.
Fighting your negative thoughts, trying to be positive, may be unpleasant. It may increase unpleasant intensity. So you, and it may be trial. It may be that you don't know what will move you towards orientation and pleasure, which is a trial and error process. And if your norm is discomfort and negative and unpleasant thoughts and feelings, that will just be the norm. So sometimes the negativity, like, let's say a person does 45 minutes of doom scrolling every night. So I have to doom scroll 45 minutes. When I get into bed, I have to doom scroll 45 minutes until I can fall asleep. Then do that. That's what you have for now. So 45 minutes. Um, if you try to do, well, my therapist says I should try to do 44 minutes, slowly, today.
Right.
So today I'm gonna do 44. Okay. Oh, my timers went off 44. I can't do the last minute. I have to. That's just a recipe for disaster, because it's just gonna increase stress and intensity, and like, why can't I do my, so fully enjoy the 45 minute. I mean, first of all, if that if the 44-minute goal is interesting and pleasurable to try to implement, then do that, because it's in the direction of pleasure. But if you don't want to do that, it's stressful. It's like someone's trying to tell you to do something you don't want to do, and you're going to do the 44-minute timer. That's the recipe for disaster. Do the 45 minutes, or even do 46. Make yourself do 46, not 45. You can't even stop at 45. You have to do 46. Really enjoy the doom scrolling, because that will lower intensity. And while you're doom scrolling, if you can, look at the ceiling for 1 second here and there. Look at the plant in your corner. Look at your plushie. Look at your dog. Look at your fan. I mean, just get some orientation in that 45 minutes. Anything helps.
Wow, that is so interesting. So, can I bring it to like a personal
Yeah,
experience for me?
yeah.
So, because I lost my mother at a young age from cancer, I'm a little bit of a health conscious person, I would say. So, I will, if people say don't go to Google because everything will lead to just cancer. And I have definitely done that when I have a pain here, I have a lump here, I have something here, and I immediately go to Google and I start searching and searching and searching. And I feel pleasure there because I feel like, okay, I'm finding the answer. I'm finding something I can avoid, or I'm gonna implement something that I won't eat, or something like that. Now, a therapist would tell me that's unhealthy. Don't be Googling those things. Avoid that. But I always wanted to resist it because I felt like then I wasn't attaining the knowledge I needed to figure out, how to avoid cancer, whether I can or not, of my own volition. So tell me how, yeah, the OI would
Yes.
answer it.
If okay, if cancer research, uh, if it's enjoyable, gold star. Keep doing it. Do more of it. Because, and feel the pleasure of that. And then you stop the cancer research when you naturally want to stop, not before. You want to extend pleasure as much as you can. And the more you focus and feel on the pleasure while doing the cancer research, the more your attention is to pleasure, whatever gives you pleasure, which could be eating an avocado or researching how many tomatoes are there in Iowa, or I don't know. It just it's so it's the fact that it's pleasure. The content of the thoughts is not relevant. You're researching cancer, that gives you pleasure. You're researching how to make lasagna, that gives you pleasure. You're researching writing tips, that gives you pleasure. The point is, it's giving you pleasure. That's the point. That's the
And
point
that's
that,
such a physical way to look at it, too.
yeah, I mean, yeah, yes, yes, yes. It's pleasure is consciousness is embodied, but the more pleasure is good. It's a fundamental sensation. Ayn Rand says it points you in I'm appealing to authority, people who are into Ayn Rand. She says it indicates a course of action. So you follow pleasure. So if your therapist is saying, well, that's unhealthy, he or she would be saying, well, you're more likely to keep doing it, or it's going to cause problems.
Or you're
Okay,
obsessing. You're
right.
obsessing too much with this.
But the real point is it increasing displeasure in life? No, it sounds like it's decreasing displeasure and increasing pleasure.
Well, because it might be answering questions I have or concerns, and then those concerns lower once I'm
Right,
able
but
to look it up.
yeah, but the yes, okay, yes, but the fundamental, okay, yes, and but the focus there is on the fact that it's pleasurable, so that
Okay, yes.
learning whatever you're learning about the cancer stuff may be that the particular way you're getting pleasure, but in another evening it could be you're scrolling ballet moves. I don't know, I'm making something up.
Yes, yeah, that's pleasurable. Yes.
You have an impulse like today I don't feel like researching. Okay, today I don't feel like researching cancer. I wonder if I have disease. I wonder if I have Parkinson's. So I'm going to research Parkinson's. So you do
Hmm.
that. That's pleasurable. And then the next day, I feel like researching ballet for some reason, or poker, or whatever. I'm going to do that. So the point is, you're getting pleasure. The point is pleasure.
And are you connecting this more to it's they talk about rewiring. Is it a chemical like rewiring that you're doing without really understanding that, or is that different?
Okay. Yes. So, um, the f good. The first thing I'll say is the best way to see if it's true that orientation and pleasure will improve your life and is to do it and see what happens. Just like the best way to see if leaving your abuser will improve your mood is to leave your abuser or try to and see what happens. If you leave your abuser and your mood improves, you know that leaving your abuser improved your mood. It could be a little more complicated. Like, what if you left your abuser at the same time you started supplements XYZ, or what if you left your abuser, but then you got into a car accident the same day, so your mood was bad. But it's a scientific process is more complicated. But that's how you do it. So, how do you know if orientation and pleasure will improve your life? You do it and see what happens. Now, if you ask the question, okay, I left my abuser and my mood improved, so I know that improved my mood. But why exactly? What's the mechanism? What happens when someone calls me a piece of shit? Why exactly does that hurt? I need an answer in biochemical terms.
Yeah.
If it's pleasurable for you to pursue that, you could ask Claude or ChatGPT, like, what happens biochemically when someone insults me, and I need to know why that hurts me. Then you can get that, fine. But you don't. But that comes after. That's a separate thing from rationally validating that leaving your abuser made you feel better. So, to the question, what is the mechanism, the why and the how and the mechanism of how orientation and pleasure grow your capacity? The first thing I would say is the most, as far as validating the truth, I would say do it and see what happens. That's most important. Just like leaving your abuser, your mood improves. That's what's most important. If you are interested in mechanism, here I'll offer a partial answer. According to organic intelligence, there are levels of intensity, biological. This is going to open a can of worms, but okay. But there are levels of
Been
bio.
doing that a lot.
Yeah, I know. But this is a new like. Yeah, agreed. You're
New
right.
can
You're right.
of worms. Okay.
It doesn't matter, whatever, how many worms or how many cans, but maybe, well, unless it gives you pleasure. There are three worms and three cans. Three
You
cans and
know
three
me
worms.
so well already.
Okay.
Yes.
So according to organic intelligence, there are set points of intensity, levels of intensity, set by your biology that are called organic intensity thresholds. Organic intensity thresholds. Sometimes they're also just called intensity thresholds, sometimes organic thresholds, and sometimes just the word thresholds. You grow capacity to process information at intensity when your biology increases in intensity to reach an organic intensity threshold, not exceed it, and then fully rest from having reached that threshold. That cycle of reaching a threshold, it, your current threshold for processing information intensity easily, reaching that threshold, resting from the threshold, that's what catalyzes an increase in capacity, processing capacity. The way to reach these thresholds is to be as stable as possible in orientation and pleasure. To the degree you're stable in orientation and pleasure, first of all, intensity will be within thresholds as opposed to over threshold. So people who are suffering trauma, anxiety, depression, stress, nightmares, terrors, whatever, that's over threshold. To be within threshold through orientation and pleasure, and orientation and pleasure establish an ebb and flow of intensity that naturally rises to meet the organic intensity threshold, not exceed it, and then rest. And that's what catalyzes an increase in capacity. Experientially, it feels like pleasant intensification, reaching some point or threshold, and then pleasant de-intensification, all within stability in orientation. That's what it feels like experientially. Here's an example of how that might go in concrete real life. There's a guy who goes to various social events, and there's a girl he's attracted to who goes to those events also. He has a crush on her, but he's uncomfortable when he's around her. He's scared, so he leaves the party when she's there. Which, according to OI, could be a good call because you're promoting pleasure. You're promoting comfort. Many his objectivist bros will say, "No, dude, you got to stay with her and ask her out. But you don't, you got to face your fears and be uncomfortable and all that, and eat spiders and all." But no, that's going to trauma. So it's a good call for pursuing pleasure by leaving the party. Now, one day, let's say, when she enters the room, he finds that he's comfortable. So his orientation is online. It's not hijacked by fear, and he's comfortable. So he follows the pleasure and stays comfortable and stays there. Okay, good call. He wants to ask her out, but he's scared, so he doesn't. His friends egg him on. You got to ask her out. Ask her out. Face your fears. Eat the spider. No, he prioritizes orientation and pleasure. As he's looking at her, not asking her out, his intensity rises pleasurably. Should I ask her out? Will I ask her out? Maybe, maybe not. But it rises anyway, and then it reaches some threshold, and then he feels done, quote unquote. And then the intensity settles pleasurably, and he feels done, like, I'm good. That was good. He didn't ask her out, but looking at her and thinking about asking her out and being in that zone I'm stipulating here, it led to increased in pleasurable intensity, reaching a threshold, and then deactivation. And I'm just going to stipulate that corresponded to reaching an organic intensity threshold. So he grew capacity, which means later on, the next day, the next party, he can ask her out easily because he grew capacity. If you follow standard protocols of being uncomfortable, you could miss the capacity growth because he would have stayed at the party even though he's uncomfortable, missing the capacity growth, or he would ask her out prematurely when he's scared and possibly traumatized, missing capacity growth. So mainstream protocols of discomfort knock you away from the natural process of orientation and pleasure, and that process is necessary for these cyclings of pleasurable increase in intensity, threshold decrease, which is what increases capacity.
Okay. Can you just explain again what exactly the threshold is made up of or is.
Yeah. No, because I don't know biology or neurochemistry or neuroscience or biochemistry. I mean,
Okay.
if you're getting now, like for example, cells have certain thresholds for certain kinds of activation, and that has to do with potassium ions and membranes and how much potassium need, and some kind of threshold for activating the cell or neuron. That was just from memory. I don't know that stuff anymore.
Right.
But but the point would be
Is
that
it kind of like a placeholder
yeah,
for how
but
much you can
right.
feel?
Uh the intensity level is sorry, good. Damn. Okay. Because
Because I was following you, but I wasn't able to
no,
connect to
you're
the
right.
thresholds.
Because I'm skipping over some stuff and you're right to you're good. You're good. Okay. There's two senses of intensity.
Oh boy.
One is the biological level of intensity,
Yes.
felt or unfelt.
Okay.
And another sense is how intense your experiential level of intensity. Like, oh, my emotions are really intense right now. Like, what's your pain level? What's your anger level? What's your happiness level? Is it 10, 5, 1? That's so intensity in terms of the intensity or your thoughts, how intense. That's experiential intensity. Biological intensity refers to here it has to be ostensively, I can only do ostensive definition, like the car almost hit you, see a car coming at you, it almost hit you. Biological intensity jacks up, heart rate goes up, a bunch of stuff happens in nerves and muscles and tension. Biological intensity jacks up. In this case, in parallel with experiential intensity jacking up. Like, whoa, I almost got killed by a car. So your experiential intensity jacks up. Also, your biological intensity jacks up.
Mhm.
And then after some time, let's say you calm down, your experiential intensity calms down, and your biological intensity calms down also. It could be that you get biological intensity without experience. So you're going to do surgery, and then you're unconscious because the anesthesia, you're unconscious, and then the moment someone cuts into you, your biology goes into alarm, like
Yeah.
intense biological intensity. You don't feel it because you're unconscious. So there's no experiential intensity, but your biology is very activated by being cut into.
Yes.
So it'll require a lot of recovery time. When you wake up after, you'll feel like, oh my God, I've been through something. So
Yes.
so so with the organic intensity threshold, it's referring to biological intensity level, uh, which you can't track by feeling exactly. So it's more of a black box thing. But in terms of what you do with your life, you follow the experiential in you follow the experience of orientation and pleasure. And the experience of orientation and pleasure, as they get stabilized, will ebb and flow up and down in experiential intensity, and that will tend to get your biological intensity to rise to meet the organic intensity thresholds and deactivate and rest and then grow capacity.
Are
Okay.
you going to be able to talk to like neuroscientists and people who know more of the biological stuff for your book specifically?
No, my book. Okay, so I have two academic articles I co-authored with the founder of Organic Intelligence. If you're interested in that stuff, I'll link it somewhere. You can look into
Sure.
that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
But no, because I am not interested in the question
Okay.
when people call me a piece of shit, why does it hurt me? What happens biochemically?
Okay.
I don't have an interest in that
Fair.
question. Now,
Yeah.
I think that, but the point of my saying that is to because I'm also trying to bring in objectivist epistemology into my think. So, well, I'm an objectivist, but
Right. And she doesn't think that we're just
right.
a bunch of chemical squirtings or
But
you'll throw out you're a materialist and that's a
oh, it's
negative.
not that. It's more that sorry. The validation uh
It doesn't matter, right?
my interest is in elucidating what orientation and pleasure are as experiences, what capacity growth feels like, how that's the model for understanding healing and growth compared to other models. What happens biochemically, I don't know. I don't have much interest in. My book will not be concerned with that. And for rational validation, I don't think it's I think it's a red herring, or it's bad epistemology, actually, because the
So you won't
validation.
be telling people, go eat an apple a day and that'll help you biologically, have a better experience. It's about values.
Wait, I don't know what you mean by you threw me off with the apple a day because I'm telling people to do orientation and pleasure. So if that's
I mean by like eat an apple so that your cells are doing the proper thing mechanism to lower intensity.
oh yeah, okay, so
Like that kind of prescriptive health protocol.
it's nothing like okay, it's nothing like that. No,
Yeah.
it's have French fries, get a poker tutor, write, have fun with friends, but above all, orientation, orientation, orientation. Oh, and then ignore.
I don't know if you'll maybe have a prologue or explain that there is that difference and that you're not going into that, you're just going into this very specific section or
What do you mean not going into that?
not going into the very biological mechanisms behind
Oh, but it's
thresholds and stuff.
oh right. I mean, because I don't have that knowledge and I'm not interested in it, but I'm coming at you saying epistemologically, it's like I'm trying to get people to compare that question to what exactly happens during digestion, what exactly happens during sleep, when someone insults me, what happens biochemically, when someone praises me, what happens biochemically, when I enjoy music, what happens biochemically. I don't know, but you don't need to know that music gives you pleasure.
Even
Sleep.
maybe saying, like, if you do end up saying, like, well, I'm not a doctor of this, I'm a doctor of philosophy, right? So I'm going to be talking about this, not this.
Oh yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
well, I will make clear whatever I'm talking about, what I'm not talking
Yeah,
about. That's for
yeah.
sure. Right, right, right.
Because
Um,
I feel like if their audience is going for what can I do, like how many hours of sleep do I need, that kind of like prescriptive stuff. If that's not what you're giving out as like health advice, it's something, it's more psychological than there is a different
yeah,
audience there.
right. Oh yes. Also, pleasure is there's a lot to say about pleasure. Uh, Pleasure needs less of a defense than displeasure. So you have some problem. It could be medical, it could be physical, or it could be emotional. And someone has some advice, but it's going to cause you a lot of displeasure, like electroshock therapy, or
Oof, yeah.
drink this nasty thing every day, or expose yourself to your trauma while I move a pen in front of your eyes, or something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
So if someone is going to come at you proposing displeasure, there should be a much higher standard of validation of that protocol
I get it. I get it.
because
Yeah.
displeasure is a harm.
Right.
One of the beautiful things about organic intelligence is that the proposal does not require nearly as much rational defense because if I say enjoy your fish taco a little bit more, that does not require rational defense.
Right.
If I'm proposing, I want you to enter this room where I filled it with spiders, that requires rational defense because I'm causing you displeasure. If I'm saying, yeah, enjoy the sand, enjoy the lasagna, enjoy the surfing, enjoy your friends, that's almost like so trivially true that it doesn't it not only does not require defense, it almost doesn't require uttering, although it does because we're trying to fight all of therapy, but I'm trying to fight all of therapy,
Yeah, pretty much, yes.
but in a sense that pleasure does not need a defense. The fact that okay, for many people, if they're coming at me saying, I want some deep biochemical nervous system laden, language laden explanation for pleasure and value, I'm suspicious because pleasure does not need a defense. And you may be
Hmm.
coming at me a place you're coming at a place I would question. I think it's valid. I mean, it's certainly not, it's just not my interest. Um, and the practice is pleasurable. It's like the next time you see your husband or friends and you pay more attention to how much enjoyment you get during the process, that is innocent. That's great. That's rational. That's good. So that should not be suspicious. Okay. Someone coming at you saying you need to do what's uncomfortable right now, that should be suspicious. And that should get more of a defense. One attractive feature of organic intelligence is that it does no harm. It does no harm. And that's a very fundamentally distinctive and attractive feature of organic intelligence. Because it does no harm, because not harming yourself is built into the fundamentals of orientation and pleasure. Whereas CBT is going to harm you, exposure protocols are going to harm you. Let me ask you some questions to identify your core beliefs and core vulnerabilities. That's going to harm you. So you're going to need a lot more rational defense. Okay, well, if I'm going to be harming myself in this way, what's the benefit? I mean, whereas organic intelligence saying do no harm is built in, and I hope in the conversation we've had so far, presenting not only built in but far more profoundly valuable. There's an objection to organic intelligence. Hi, Crypto Bro from Crypto Bro, saying that organic intelligence is like, okay, mainstream therapy is like Western medicine, a lot of side effects, but very powerful, very beneficial, but a lot of side effects. Whereas organic intelligence is like homeopathy, a bunch of herbs that don't do anything but don't harm you either. No, the therapy that's harming you is what's keeping you from growing. The ease and comfort of orientation and pleasure is what unlocks capacity growth.
Man, yes, I agree with all of that.
Okay.
And I, of course, I'm going to have to, continue to basically do what I'm doing, but with more of a knowledge that it's okay. Because I think for a long time too, with my whole journey, I felt guilty that I wasn't, this is going to sound really bad, but I wasn't going out and making friends or spending time with other people. And therapists thought it was concerning that I didn't have a group of friends and that I was spending so much time reading instead. And it made me feel guilty. But in an organic intelligence thought process, what I hear you saying is that I didn't find that the value of talking to these people who usually were just people around me that I didn't connect with, or we didn't have the same values, or I wasn't going to gain anything, which in the, objectivist meaning gaining values, exchanging values. I wasn't going to get that over reading a good book, over reading words, engaging with someone else who most of them are dead now, most of these authors. I was just choosing values that weren't the norm. And I don't think that that's wrong. And I'm still on that path. But I have a feeling that as I start healing more and more, I will want to have conversations like this, more conversations, putting myself out there, even if they are long distance friends, because a lot of objectivists, they're all over the place and not right next to me in my hometown. I will want those connections more as opposed to what I'm feeling right now, which is that's not a high priority. That's not a big value. But I was made to feel guilty this
Yeah.
whole time
I,
with therapy.
I'm in agreement with you and supportive fully. And you put it in terms of values. I'm getting more values from my reading than from socializing. Yes, I'm down with that. I support that. And values is a term that is crucial in objectivism. A lot of objectivists talk in terms of values, which I support. And I'm inviting a turn towards the concept pleasure, uh, to ensure that what you're going for, the values are anchored to actual pleasure. Values can kind of be more abstract. So so the focus on pleasure is a focus on really go for pleasure.
Yes.
If
So
you're going
sitting
because yeah,
on my couch at home, snuggled up in a blanket, if it's winter, and reading is much more pleasurable to me then going out, the typical thing is have a drink, talk to your friends about nothing, like the weather. Like usually that's where I end up finding myself. And it was never pleasurable to me. And yes, I can surround myself with more objectivists somehow, but it's not here. It's not easily accessible. I'm getting more pleasure right now from just sitting on the couch and reading.
A plus. I mean, yes, you're going for pleasure, which is exactly right. And as you're on your couch in winter, reading, snuggled up, feeling comfortable, feeling pleasure, things in your biology will be happening behind the scenes that you don't have to worry about. You don't have to control. You can't control, don't have to control. You don't control your digestion. They're just happening. Things that are deepening orientation and pleasure. So, and which is what heals and grows so that guilt fades away, discomfort fades away, attunement to yourself deepens, valuing pleasure deepens, valuing what's in your well-being deepens just from reading a book comfortably on the couch during winter because that's what you want to do and gives you pleasure. Your biology is engaged in profoundly selfish, self-healing work, which you're robbing yourself from if you follow discomfort protocols. You're knocking your biology out of the conditions it needs to heal by exposing yourself to stress and discomfort, which they call good, when it's bad.
Wow.
Yeah. 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 Nice.
That is,
Nice.
yes, that is so nice to hear. And now I'm gonna have to like embody that because I still feel guilty. I'm gonna have to live it.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, doorknob, avocado, forehead, orientation, you know.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I don't know how long it'll take me, but it's good to hear. And I feel like maybe I wouldn't have had to go on this whole what is kind of like a quest if I didn't have all of that happen to me. But in my childhood, when I had no control, over the situation, but I did. And so my body, in order to heal itself, is like, nah, you find this more pleasurable. You're gonna go through this whole process and you'll come out the other side better. And I don't think it could have happened any other way. It does feel like I have to keep reading, I have to keep writing, I have to keep going.
When there's pleasure, you want to soak it up as much as possible. Like, I want to get in the pool and splash around. Do that and swim and splash around as much as possible. Enjoy it, drink up the pleasure as much as you can, and then eventually, hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, I'm kind of hungry. I feel like having some food. Then you go, okay, go some sandwiches. You take in the pleasure of the sandwich as much as possible. Drink up the pleasure. Okay, you know what? That's good. I had a sandwich and kind of want to read. I kind of want to read. Oh, I'm gonna go read and really take in the pleasure of reading, etc.
I feel like society would look so much different. There wouldn't be like holidays anymore. Because I feel like with me too, like there's a lot of trauma around holidays where you are supposed to be on vacation, you are supposed to be relaxing, you're supposed to be with family and friends. And that puts so much pressure on people. And again, it's not pleasurable when you are like forced to be at somebody's house,
Yeah.
eating a meal you might not want to be eating at that moment because that's the religion or that's the holiday and everybody's off. Like, man, if you could just go do what you wanted every single day, you would be a lot happier, I think. But it's not the norm, and so you feel guilty about it. I feel guilty if I'm at a Christmas party and I'm not like, this is so much fun," because that's not where I want to be. That's not what I want to do.
Yes.
That's all over the
So
place.
to unlock more orientation and pleasure, we have to reject altruism. And to be able to reject it, it helps to be more stable in orientation and pleasure so that you can say no more pleasurably,
I feel guilty.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's understanding guilt as displeasure is the invitation here. So it's really the concept of pleasure is carrying so much. What is guilt is displeasure. What is anxiety is displeasure. What is depression is displeasure. What is trauma is displeasure. What is stress is displeasure. What is shame, loneliness, self-hatred, doom, despair is displeasure. That really is the fundamental.
Yeah.
It's the answer, pleasure and orientation.
And you have to convince people again. It goes back to altruism and
It's yeah.
guilt and so much, at least in America, so much of our culture is still really about suffering and guilt.
I think that my fighting for orientation and pleasure may be a value for getting people more interested in Ayn Rand who may not have been interested. It's like because you're trying to do it, I'm trying to do it through ease and pleasure,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
That seems easy. I don't know if it
Right,
is
right.
though.
So I mean that's the point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and I think with my books, I mean, they're obviously more for me. It's a selfish act of me putting these out, but I make them public to hopefully, well, I want to connect with people like you and I want to find more friends like that because right now, I'm not finding the value that's as high as a pleasurable as reading, like by myself. But still a social creature and I still want to talk to people, but I just haven't found that many people to discuss these with and really talk about values in this way. And I think with my books, it's a
Yes.
reaching out, like, please, like, read this, please connect with me, please talk to me if you care about this. Like, I want people to be just as in love with life as I am. Even when it's scary, I still think it's worth living. I mean, I don't know what the alternative is really. Nothing, nothingness. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that it kind of caught you in and that you were like, well, now you can market your book. Like, yeah, I mean, this is the kind of conversation I want. And yeah, it
Mm.
this whole thing has felt like really nice and makes me want to do more podcasts. I mean, this is my first, I mean, the closest thing I can say to this is talking to my therapist via Zoom. So this is very similar to that, but I've never had like a YouTube interview or, an interview type of thing where I'm talking to just a person about life. And I can tell you this is way more helpful than any therapy session I've been in, where the person I'm talking to doesn't share the worldview, doesn't share the values, doesn't see the world in the same way. And that doesn't help me grow personally.
I relate to you in wanting to produce content because I want people to see who I am and to connect with people who share my values. And this is what's happening in this conversation is that we connected
Yeah,
organically
yeah,
through orientation and pleasure,
yes.
organically, and we're talking about orientation and pleasure. And my goal is get articulate what I think is true inorganic intelligence and connect and especially to the objectivist world and find objectivists who will connect and this is an example of that happening. It's been happening with other people too. Much of it is in private, not publicly through Zoom recordings, but it's happening. I think it's pleasing when objectivists start get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm saying.
absolutely.
Um, what one challenge is that many objectivists are interested in finding flaws in other people's reasoning, as opposed to what is the value there, what is plausible here, what is potentially true and valuable here. The orientation is, oh, you made a little reasoning error here, or you were slightly imprecise with this concept. And I think that orientation is not orientation to pleasure, orientation and pleasure. And I'm hoping objectivists will be more uh will loosen up in that regard. I mean, I'm
Think that
for
goes back to reading and empathy again. And
yeah.
I have met a lot of, yes, objectivists who are very rational and they think that emotions are bad. And so they push those down or push those aside or put on the cold face. And I don't think that's what objectivism is. I mean, your emotions are super important too, but they should guide your thinking.
Reason I think what you're identifying and integrating is emotional data as well as data from the world. So it's the processor.
And the way to improve that muscle, I feel like, is through reading other people's perspectives and their most intimate thoughts. And
Yeah,
that
yeah,
that
yeah.
that is what I get from reading. That's why I feel like I can connect to people in that way, but just because I've read so many books.
Yeah, marvelous. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a muscle. Yeah.
This feels like a complete, but if you have more on your list, we can, yeah.
No,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure my family's like, we're getting hungry. It's close to 5 over here,
Oh, okay. So,
but man,
um,
I mean, so worth it. So worth it.
thank you to the audience. This has been just a planned, unplanned conversation. It was just
Yeah.
Kaitlyn and I connecting and just talking about OI and objectivism and her writing and this has been a I think this is a I think this video is long and I'm kind of lazy to edit, so we'll see what happens. But for anyone who can make it through, I think there's a lot in this interview.
Or maybe you could chop it up. I don't know.
Well, if it depends on my pleasure levels,
Okay.
but um but I think what a lot of material we covered is really important. Like it's important for people to
Very.
hear a lot, like a lot. Yes, yes, yes. So if there were, it would be nice to have a video chopped up, which would require, but if it requires displeasure on my part, I may not do it. So yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll see.
As long as your computer can handle it, downloading and all that, uploading and whatever.
Um, this has been a step for bridging
Yes,
the the essence of organic intelligence, which is that orientation and pleasure group capacity, bridging the essence of organic intelligence with the objectivist world.
definitely.
And I hope this bridge will grow and grow and grow over time. Uh,
Please. I want more friends.
yeah, I mean, so I could see more conversations between us on organic intelligence and objectivism.
Oh,
So,
definitely. Good. I would love to. And
um,
if you want to put my website, KaitlynBankson.com, in the description, whichever book you want to start with is it's fine, but it does go chronologically through my life. And yeah, I mean, I just have basically conversations like that in the book. I mean, if you want to
Caitlin,
continue it,
yeah, Kaitlyn's info will be in the description. And we will see the audience next time. And thank you, Kaitlyn.
thank you. It was awesome. Awesome to talk with you, Bach.
Thank you.
Thank you.